Are you guys ready to rock and roll? All right. Welcome tonight to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for April 20th, 2026, 7:30 p.m. First up on the, and you guys can hear me, correct? No. You guys in the way back can't hear me. I know that, unfortunately. Just bear with us 1 second. And I'll remind our board members, and I'll remind myself to speak directly to the mic. Our mic systems leave a little bit to be desired. Okay, I'm going to speak louder. Does that help? Okay. All right, first up, we have business items. First up on there is minutes from the 4/2/2026 Planning Board meeting. So that is reviewing the minutes that were sent to us by town staff. The town board has reviewed it, and now we need to make a decision to accept or not accept the minutes that were sent to us for 4/2/2026. Any questions or comments from board members on the 4/2 minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 4/2/26.
Motion from Walter.
Second.
Second from Eileen. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
JD.
Aye.
And Steve.
Aye.
And an aye from me. Next up, adoption of resolution of approval for steep slopes application SS 25-17 for development of a new single-family dwelling on a vacant parcel located on Jackson Avenue, Hawthorne, R10 zoning district, SBL 112.9-1-2, Cooling Homes Incorporated. Any questions or comments on Jackson Avenue?
No, just that the draft approval resolution, Pat, was missing. The draft approval resolution was missing a couple of items that we wanted to have included, including a construction management plan, a tree management plan, truck management, avoid blocking driveways, and a bond for any street repairs. If you could include those in your resolution, please. Will do. Okay.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Okay. All right, next up, seventh.
Oh, do you want to make a
Oh,
motion?
that's
Yeah.
right, I jumped right onto it.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution of approvals for the steep slope permit as amended.
Okay, motion from Eileen,
Second.
second from Jane. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, next request. Seventh request for a 90-day extension of subdivision application approval SD 20-6 for the development of a 4-story 170-unit service-enriched senior housing residence, Brightview Senior Living, 364 and 236 Grasslands Road, Valhalla, New York, 117.17-1-28 Grasslands Estates, owner Brightview Senior Living Development. And Pat, what's the story on this one?
So, Mr. Chairman, this is an application where the applicant is complying with the approval resolution conditions, and they have not yet satisfied all those conditions, so they're asking for the next.
Extension, they believe this is their final request.
Okay. Any final questions or comments from board members? Okay, we can entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to extend the 90-day extension.
Motion from Jane,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, first on the agenda, and there are a few agenda on the front table, but first on the agenda, and I know, just to set expectations, there's a few items on the agenda tonight. I suspect people are here for Linda Avenue. That is item number 3. We're on item number 1. So first up is proposed 28 Country Club Lane, the structural stabilization of an existing failed slope, as well as the construction of a new single-family residence, which has been designed to better fit with the existing topography of the site. Application steep slopes SS 26-3, location 28 Country Club Lane, Briarcliff Manor, section block lot numbers 104.15-1-33, zone R20. Owner and applicant is David Ewan and Rochelle Yu. Engineer Daniel Collins, Hudson Engineer, Architect, Res 4 Prefabs. Welcome, thank you for coming out tonight.
Before we go further, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
Oh, thank you. Motion from Eileen,
Second.
second from GD. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen.
Do you have the remote control for the television?
You can see it on the TV.
Thank you.
Good
evening.
Hold on one second.
Okay,
Wrap
sorry.
up the motion. Eileen,
Aye.
GD,
Aye.
aye, Steve,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, so welcome, ready to rock and roll.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Board. My name is Joseph Berge. I'm here representing the owner, Mr. David Unn, and his wife, Ms. Rochelle Yu. With Remus Industries, we're seeking approval of the steep slope permit. We're going to show you a demonstration. We have an animation. Makes it pretty clear. We had a catastrophic slope failure, as I explained last time we were here. October of 2023, about 2.5 years ago, we had a catastrophic slope failure, which ended up avalanching, folding down onto Metro North Railroad. Again, the address is 28 Country Club Lane South, Scarborough. We're here after coming up with several designs. We feel we have a satisfactory design using soil nails and slope facing, erosion control. The affected area is about 12,000 square feet from property line to property line, running north to south. If you look, I don't know who can see this board here, but there's a,
This, public, you definitely, if you can't see, we can turn this a little bit, just let us know. This is for the public, not for us so much, because we've seen this already. There you go.
okay, so what you see here is the lot. North is up. The yellow area is the area of disturbance. It's about 12,000 square feet. Running to the left of that, it's hard to see, but that's Metro North's railroad tracks. To the right of the yellow area is actually the owner's property. So a lot of this slope actually exists outside the bounds of the owner's property line. It's Metro North property. Yet we're still here trying to gain approval to stabilize the entire slope, as explained. So it's really not much to it. It's, like I said, 12,000 square feet. There'll be, I believe, 261 soil nails. The job duration, we expect it to be about 4 months. Could be up to 6 months, weather permitting, and depending on how much Metro North stays out of our way. And that's about it. That's the long and short of it. So I don't know if there's any questions. Yeah, we have an animation. Glad to show you from a three-dimensional standpoint. The slope is excessively steep. It's about 70%, 1.4 to 1. MRCE is our engineer of record, Musa Rutledge. Geodesign is our geotech engineer, of course, Hudson Engineering and Consulting here, Abdulaziz Yusuf, our civil engineer. Robert Luntz, representing Resolution 4, will be responsible. He's the lead architect on the job, building the new house. That's pretty much it. Questions? Oh, sorry.
Questions?
My first time.
No, that's okay. Thank you, and thank you for that. And just for the public's enumeration, you may have heard the news. This was the wall that fell onto the Metro North over in Scarborough. It blocked the train for several days. It was a catastrophe at the time, and this action is trying to remedy that wall that collapsed. So just to kind of bring people up to date on what actually was happening with this particular application. Okay. With that being said, any questions or comments from board members on this application?
Just to confirm, Metro North is on board with your repair details?
Yes, sir. We have an entry permit secured, but not finalized, just because we're working out the force account estimate issue.
Okay, any final questions or comments from board members? Okay, going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, let the record show no final questions or comments from board members. Okay, so we are here for the public hearing. So if anybody would like to address the board for 28 Country Club Lane specifically, please raise your hand. You can come up and talk, and we can have a little conversation. Anybody here for 28 Country Club Lane? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Let the record show that nobody from the public has any interest in speaking to the board for 28 Country Club Lane. Okay, so this wall is going to be fixed under this proposal, but we need to make a decision on what we want to do with this, this particular application in front of us tonight.
Can I make a motion that we direct the preparation of a resolution of approval for the steep slope permit?
We have to close the public hearing.
Oh, we missed a
Close
step.
the public hearing,
We
yeah.
we have a good team here.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion from Jane,
Second.
second from JD. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, we closed the public hearing. So what that means is the next step is we need to make a decision on the application itself. And that's where,
Okay. I'm up. I make a motion to direct the planning consultant to prepare a resolution of approval for this steep slope permit.
okay, we have a motion from Eileen,
Seconded.
second from Steve. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, thank you for coming up, and I'm looking forward to seeing that repaired wall.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is 361 Bradhurst Avenue, renewal of a special use permit gas filling station in accordance with Town Code 218-33. Application site plan number PSP 25-7, location 361 Bradhurst Avenue, Hawthorne, section block lot numbers 112.9-1-4, zone HH, owner Hawthorne Enterprise LLC, applicant and attorney Zarin and Steinmetz LLP. So this is a new public hearing, so we need to waive the reading of the public notice.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing.
Motion from Jane,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Welcome, Mr. Steinmetz.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. David Steinmetz from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. Pleased to be here this evening on behalf of CPD, Chestnut Petroleum Distributors, Chestnut Market, with regard to 361 Bradhurst Avenue. I'm joined this evening by my client, Tom Kiewit from CPD. We are here, as I think you all know, in connection with a renewal of a special use permit in connection with this gas station. Originally, site plan approval, I believe, was granted in 2010. You have a special permit duration of 15 years. As I think Pat explained last month, we were going to be back now, and I think you're having several gas stations now coming in as the town is ensuring that in light of the 15-year durational requirement, each station comes in. We applied to come in quite some time ago. However, there were a number of issues that were raised by Mr. Pinelli and the building department. I believe most of those have been addressed in advance. There are a few remaining cleanup items that we're hoping will be conditions of the special permit renewal. My client and I are here to answer any questions, but the gas station is here. It is functioning. They are very pleased to be here in the town of Mount Pleasant and wish to remain. So we are seeking an extension and a renewal of the special use permit.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members?
What
What-
are the minor items to clean up?
Sal probably is the one to really confirm, but my understanding is there are some signs that still need to be finalized. There was an expression of concern about firewood, which I think we've all come to see at numerous stations throughout the area, but there was concern about the location of the firewood where it was being stored. It is being relocated. There were some landscaping details that had to be finalized, and I think that's it.
So what's holding up getting that resolved?
Tom?
Good evening, Tom Kiewit, CPD. So we have new tenants in the store, so we had to take the signage down. They're going to be responsible for heading to the planning board to get approval for new signage. We did remove some of the barrels, the environmental barrels that were in the rear, and we cleaned up some of the site. And it is early in the year, so landscaping is still yet to be done. And that was the main items, were the landscaping and the signage.
But the logs have been relocated?
I think they're
Firewood?
still today. Yeah, we'll give them another notice to
So,
remove, so it's been twice
The-
already.
The whole purpose of this process is to clean up the site. I can tell you I'm hesitant about, for me, myself, one board member moving forward, because the only mechanism I have to clean up these gas station sites every 15 years is this mechanism of this law that's in place. So if we haven't remedied all the situations, then we really, to me, and I'm only speaking for myself, I'm very hesitant about making any decision moving forward. I think everything needs to be remedied before we come back and clean up the site, clean up the application, to me.
Okay.
Any questions, comments from board members?
You mentioned containers that you didn't mention. What were those containers? What's in
They're
those?
environmental barrels, so they're just the vapor recovery from the dispensers. It has to be put separately, even though it's clean water, it has to be treated separately. So those have been removed from the site. As far as the signage, would we need to remedy that as well as landscaping before we come back?
Everything that's a condition of approval should be remedied before you come back.
Okay.
And because it's the right thing to do, because to me, and the other board members may think differently, and that's fine, that's why we have all the board members we have, but it's my only hook that I have with these gas stations, cleaning them up.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I just may be heard briefly on it, I completely understand and acknowledge the board's concern, and I think we've been working with the building department for several months. The only response I'm going to give you is virtually every approval that this board gives has conditions in it. And you are always in a position to turn to your professionals and say, enforce a condition that has not yet been enforced. We're now here because we have applied and complied with the law to get this renewal. There are some minor things here. Mr. Chairman, if you and the board decide you want them back, Tom will be back here. Whether you like it or not, you know I'm going to end up back here at future meetings. We'll come back. But I'm asking you to at least reconsider as a board. We know we got to deal with it. He knows he's got to deal with it. We have a tenant that we're obviously leaning on. We would ask your board to give us a strenuous condition that we can place in front of our tenant, and that we would ask for the building department's assistance in making sure, because when Sal goes out there, it seems to make things happen. So, the decision's yours. I just want to make sure,
Yeah,
if you
no,
want us
that-
back, we're back.
So my question is, though, if you've been working with Sal for a couple months, why is it taking so long to do these minor things?
Well, that's up to our tenants, so we have a different operations side, and we're always leaning on them to do certain things, and it always doesn't translate. Sometimes we'll tell them to clean it up in the morning, they'll be back at night, so it's kind of like we're one hand fighting against the other. I'm not exactly certain who the new tenant is. I'm not privy to that information, but I will make sure that this gets escalated before.
So to be honest with you, that answer in itself is really more of a reason why, again, in my opinion, we couldn't be able to move forward today. If you're having trouble now, how can we move forward and then guarantee that it's going to be done?
Well, again,
Because they are
we
kind of
could
minor things, right?
Right,
So
but-
they should,
yeah.
it's something that should have been rectified within this time.
No problem. Again, Mr. Suma, if you and the board decide you want us back, we'll be back. We would ask you to continue the public hearing, and we will be back. And again, any assistance that we can get from the building department would be much appreciated.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members? We are for a public hearing too, but any questions or comments from board members? Okay, let the record show there's no additional questions or comments from board members. Okay, so we are here for a public hearing for 361 Braders Avenue, renewal of a special use permit. Is anybody here for 361 renewal of special use permit gas filling station in accordance with Town Code 21833? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, so now we need to make a decision. What do we do with the application? We've heard from a few of the board members, but I need to hear from all of the board members. What is the thought we want to do? Do we want to do a resolution? Do we not? Do we want to extend the public hearing? What is the pleasure of the board?
I think we should adjourn, and until those items are addressed, I feel like we've been talking about the firewood out front for as long as you've been coming in front of us for this. And it seems like an easy cure. And because it hasn't been done, might need this kind of stick.
Understood.
So is that a
All
motion?
puns intended.
Yes.
That's a motion?
A motion to adjourn.
That's a motion from Eileen.
I second that.
Second from JD. Walter?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And an aye for me. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up on the agenda, which I think is why many of you are here tonight, is 228 Linda Avenue, Cedar Knolls. Public hearing is to receive comments on the draft scoping document for the proposed subdivision of a 126.5 acre parcel into 91 lots, 87 single-family residential lots, 3 conservation open space lots, and 1 lot to continue school operations. Application subdivision PSD 26-2, location 228 Linda Avenue, Hawthorne, New York, section block lot numbers 112, 110-4-26, zone R40, owner and applicant, the Jewish Board of Family and Children's Services, engineer, architect, JMC Planning Engineer, Landscape Architecture and Land Surveying, PLLC, attorney David Steinmetz, Esquire, Zarin and Steinmetz, LLP. Do we have someone here for that application? Oh, and we need to waive the reading of the public notice.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
Motion from Jane,
Second.
second from Eileen. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and I from me. Welcome.
Good evening. May I proceed?
Please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. David Steinmetz, once again, from the law firm of Zarin and Steinmetz. Pleased to be here this evening representing the Cedar Knolls campus site and the Jewish Board of Family Services, the owner of the subject property. I'm joined this evening from Cedar Knolls, Lonnie Lieberman, our client, as well as Jonathan Grebo, Cedar Knolls Project and Entitlements Manager, and his colleague Brett Owings. From our development team, Diego Villarreal and James Karras from JMC Planning and Engineering, and my colleague Jacqueline Cohn. Good evening to all the members of the public that obviously are here for this matter. We're here tonight to conduct what's known as a SEQRA scoping session. SEQRA is an acronym that stands for the State Environmental Quality Review Act. I will start by saying we are not here tonight to ask this board to vote on any aspect of an approval of this project. We are here tonight to start formally and continue a process. You have designated your intent and declared yourselves to be the lead agency under SEQRA. That means the primary responsibility under the environmental review laws and regulations now vests with the planning board. Tonight, we as the applicant are going to comply with that process. In fact, as your board knows and the public should be aware, when my client and our team started this process, we came before the town and we said, on this particular property, it is obviously a large property surrounded by a number of residential homes and neighborhoods. This is an important project. We are going to ask that your board adopt a determination of significance that requires a comprehensive and full environmental impact statement. Most boards that I appear in front of and most clients that send me in front of boards do not on day one say, give me a positive declaration and submit me to the full SEQRA process. In this instance, our client and our team determined it was the right thing to do, so here we are starting a comprehensive, full-blown SEQRA process. The full SEQRA process requires that we ultimately prepare a draft environmental impact statement, the purpose of which is to identify all of the potential significant adverse environmental impacts, take what the law calls a hard look and study those impacts, and then determine with your board, ultimately having you determine the maximum extent practicable that these impacts can be mitigated, how best to mitigate the potential significant adverse environmental impacts. In order to start this process, the first thing we have to do, you have to do as lead agency, is determine what are those issues. What is the exhaustive and extensive list of things that my client and our team needs to study? So SECRET tells us that that's a scoping outline. It's sort of like the table of contents for the DEIS. We will be working with you and the public to achieve tonight that table of contents. We have drafted a proposed scoping outline. We have submitted it to Mr. Cleary and your professional staff. It has been reviewed by your professional staff, and we have gotten comments. It's now, under the regulations, ripe and available for public review. I believe it's available somewhere. I'll defer to Carolyn on where you have it. We submitted it. It is publicly available. And tonight's hearing is supposed to be about the scoping outline. Tonight's hearing is not about the project in general and whether people like it or don't like it. Tonight's hearing is about what do we all collectively need to study. So, you can go to the next slide. Yes. So what you have on the slide in front of you is essentially an overview or an aerial of the entire site itself. The property is located within a single-family.
As long as, I want the public to see it, though. I've seen it.
That's good. You told me when. Yeah.
You
You
just-
can let them see.
Let them see it, because I've seen this
If you
100
push it in a little bit, I think we all.
times. And for the people in the back of the room, there are a couple seats in the second row, if you're interested, in the back standing up. Don't be afraid to come up.
That's better.
Just weave your way into the room.
The site, may I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, yep.
The site is located currently in a single-family residential zoning district here in the town known as the R40 zoning district. The site is 126 acres. The development area that we're talking about as part of our application is 73 acres. We are proposing, and we'll talk more about that tonight, 30 acres of conservation space or conservation area, and 22 acres will remain associated with the Hawthorne Cedar Knolls parcel. The reason that we have a stenographer here with us tonight is to take down not only our comments and your comments, but all the comments of the public so that that can be incorporated into the scoping outline to the extent that those comments are relevant to the SECRET process and the things that we need to engage in. What you have on the screen in front of you now is the application in terms of the proposed subdivision plat. This site, which as I said is 126 acres, of which we're proposing, my client is proposing to develop 73 of those acres. The proposal is for a zoning compliant, there's no rezoning request here. This is for a zoning compliant 87 lot single-family residential subdivision of single-family homes with driveways and the associated utilities, drainage, road access, etc. We are not appearing in front of the town board and requesting any relief from the town board in terms of a rezoning. Some of you and some members of the public may have heard over the years that there were various developers who were looking at this property and seeking to develop well beyond what zoning would otherwise allow. The Jewish board ultimately determined that was not a prudent course of action, so we are here tonight not asking for anything other than what we believe zoning otherwise allows, and we believe during this process that will be clearly revealed. Now, I've indicated that the Hawthorne Cedar Knolls School would continue. There is presently the Hawthorne Cedar Knolls Union Free School District that operates on this property with access off of Linda Avenue, 2 parcels. Those are the 2 parcels that you can see on the bottom. There's a green area of open space between them. Those 2 parcels are ground leased to this state-authorized school district for decades to come. They are there. So we are proposing to develop around that, providing a buffer for the school and providing a buffer for the various neighborhoods that surround the property. As I said, proposal is for 87 home sites. SECRA requires that we not only study what we're asking for, SECRA also requires that we study reasonable alternatives. So our DEIS will ultimately have a number of alternatives that we're going to be studying. And I want to say at the outset, and the public certainly should be well aware of this, we know that there are concerns about access to the site. That's not a mystery to our client, to our development team. It's been made very clear to our team from your professional staff that access to the site is of concern. Having said that, this property for literally a century has been accessed from Linda Avenue. There is no request under this application to access the development area from Linda Avenue through the boulevard entrance that the school currently uses. Instead, there are two 50-foot right-of-way that currently butt right up against the property. One, at the north end at Westerly Avenue, there's a 50-foot right-of-way that literally comes right up to the property. Second, there's another 50-foot right-of-way at Gold Street down at the southwestern corner of the property. Both of those are part of what I would refer to as our base plan. That is part of what this application is predicated upon. Is that the only way to access this site? No, it's actually not the only way to access this site. There are other areas that touch the property, in addition to which our team would be delighted if this property could gain access from Summit Lake Drive. Summit Lake Drive does not touch my client's property. Summit Lake Drive is a road that is otherwise servicing the Summit Corporate Park. We have been asked to look at that. We are happy to explore that as access, but that access only happens ultimately if the town helps facilitate that. So we are studying what we've proposed, and we believe that we can substantiate the analysis that those two means of access provide adequate frontage and adequate access. The public will hear from Diego in a moment, and all of you can take a look at this. There is an exhaustive list of intersections that we are proposing to study. We do this in every draft environmental impact statement, and this will be no different. There are 16 different intersections that are already identified, that have been discussed with the town's professionals. They will all be studied, and I would commend the members of the public. We have handouts of a number of things. We certainly have a handout to make the traffic analysis really easy to understand. What are we going to analyze? What roads are going to be counted? Because it's all going to be part of what we refer to as the empirical data that's part of the record here. There are also, I should say, and I think you can see it on this plan here, in the top right-hand corner, which is the southeast corner of the site, we're more than happy to show an emergency access out in the direction of Summit Lake Drive. Again, that can only happen if that connection to Summit Lake Drive is otherwise facilitated. But there is by no means a desire to create this as an isolated site disconnected from some of our neighbors. For the moment, we're prepared to work with your board and your professional staff and your consultants to demonstrate that lawful, functional, safe access to the site can be achieved at Westerly and at Gold. And that's going to be our burden to demonstrate that during the SECRA process. The last point, this proposal I mentioned earlier is a conservation subdivision. I just want to touch on that briefly before I hand off to Diego. A conservation subdivision is designed to create open space, to minimize impact by condensing lots into the more appropriate sections of a property to be developed. It's expressly authorized under your town code. In order to do that, we need to leave open space around the perimeter to create scenic vistas, buffers, and setbacks. The benefit of a conservation subdivision is that it creates buffers and it allows you to vary some of the otherwise required bulk requirements or setbacks on the site. Even though we're in an R40 or 1 acre zone, some of our lots are not 1 acre in size. Based upon the configuration, and Diego can explain this better than I, most of our lots are actually quite large, and several are 1 acre or larger. Some will be smaller. Conservation or clustering allows us to do that. We are proposing to do that here. We have discussed that with your staff, and they can explain that to you. In order to do a conservation subdivision, we have to do a critical threshold issue with you. We have to establish what the density would be on this property if we did a conventional or cookie cutter subdivision. We've already done that. We've established and we have submitted to you a conventional layout that shows you on this 126 acres less the Union Free School District parcel, we can generate 87 zoning compliant lots with roads, driveways, and utilities. We are proposing to do something better than that and use the conservation subdivision techniques. What we're going to do now is walk you through in a high level the scope. As I said earlier, and the public needs to focus in on this, we have submitted a rather robust scoping outline. This is not the first time any of us on this team have done this. We know what will be demanded of us by Mr. Cleary and the rest of the town staff. So we have submitted to you an extensive scoping outline. I'm going to ask my colleague Diego Villarreal to walk you through that so your board and importantly the public understands what we are about to embark on if the scoping outline is approved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Thank you, David. Again, for the record, Diego Villarreal with JMC. We are the planning and engineering consultant working on behalf of the applicant. As David had indicated, there's been extensive amount of work that's been put in already in just developing the scope, and we did think it was important to take some time this evening. Even though it's really just the table of contents of the report, we just wanted to go through it in a bit more detail just to make sure everybody understands the different sections of it and some of the things that are going to be incorporated into those different sections of the report. We are well aware of the number of comments that have been received to date as well. They've been shared with us as they've come in. They've been made available to us on the portal. And a lot of the comments, I can say, have been or already were incorporated into the scoping document themselves. So I'll touch on a couple of them as we go through because I think there was a lot of consistency with the comments that were received. There was a lot of concern about traffic and stormwater. And as David had indicated, the plan itself, demonstrating compliance with your zoning ordinance, how we came up with the 87 lots, all of those items were really consistent messages throughout the comments that were received. And as I said before, all of these are already incorporated into the scoping document. I'm just going to kind of hit where they belong in the overall document and how you're going to see them. Again, I'm not here tonight to give you any conclusions. We're not drawing any conclusions on the DEIS, on the plan, on the analysis of the traffic, on the results of the stormwater plan. It's really just identifying the different sections of the DEIS and where these studies will be incorporated into the document itself. So as we had said, and I'm going to go through, this is a little bit of a new slide. I don't believe the board has seen this, but we will definitely get you a copy of it so you can go through. It's really just high level, the different sections of the DEIS scope that's been submitted to the board. Before we even jump into land use and zoning, the first section of the DEIS is going to have the project description. That's what really defines, delineates, and details exactly what is being proposed by the applicant. So you will see the purpose and the need, the reasoning behind the application request, and how that is all broken down. So that will be covered in that first section. After that, we get into the environmental analysis and the environmental portion of the DEIS, and that's broken down into several chapters. The first piece is the land use and zoning section, and this is where we get into demonstration of compliance with your zoning ordinance, but also what David had spoken about just before, and going to touch on it just a little bit more, demonstrating compliance with your overall zoning requirements through a conventional subdivision plan and how we established that base number of 87 lots. As David had indicated, you know, this site is 126 acres. With the zoning that we are in, even basic math, you would say is more than the set of the 87 lots that are being proposed. But there are things that come into play that your ordinance requires. We have to look at the roadways that need to be constructed. We have to look at the environmental constraints on the property, wetlands, steep slopes, other property line setbacks, and things like that. That's why that number gets squeezed down, as it's not a straight math calculation. You don't just take your lot area, divide it by the square footage, and you get the lots that are permitted. We have to look at each of those individual areas on the site and see where a zoning compliant plan can be, a zoning compliant lot can be situated. Now, we spent some time on this at the first meeting before your board. We submitted, as David had indicated, and there was a zoning a zoning compliant plan that we went through. And that just helped us establish that baseline. Now, this study will continue that analysis and will prove that out. We'll provide the additional information, the grading, utility information, stormwater information, all associated with that. And a lot of that will happen in the land use and zoning section of the ordinance. So we'll take you through that full piece. The next section of the DEIS dives into visual analyses and visual resources. We are required, as part of the scope, to document the existing conditions that are on the property. What are neighbors seeing from the perimeter of the property looking in, and how will that be compared to what is being proposed, to understand these potential visual impacts that surround the property. So we are going to look at a number of different angles, some of which we've already worked with staff on, to just confirm these locations around the perimeter of the property, and all of those will be analyzed and looked at. The character will also be looked at here, consistency in the character with the surrounding neighborhoods, the residential properties that exist. We have different zoning categories that surround this property. You have some more dense development situated along one side of the property. You have less dense development along another portion of the property. All of that will be looked at as part of this portion of the DEIS as well. Getting into a little more of the nuts and bolts, soils, topography, steep slopes. This is where we start diving into some of the concerns that we started hearing about. Erosion, sediment erosion control. How is the site going to react to construction of a project like this? How is it being protected? How are the adjacent properties being protected? And how is the grading going to occur? What portions of the site are all being protected and preserved as part of the project, and how those are going to be maintained in the future? So that section really starts to dive into those individual pieces of the analysis. Flora, fauna, and habitat starts looking into plantings, wildlife on the property, and wetlands. We all know, and we've delineated on the property already, there are pockets of wetland on this property. That was all considered in some of the plans that have been submitted to your board already. We are going to dive in further. Now that it's springtime, we will go out there. We will reconfirm all of the wetlands as part of this scope, and any modifications or changes that need to be made to the plan as a result of that would get incorporated into the DEIS document itself. Again, these are all things that we will gather more information on. There'll be additional research, and it will be incorporated into the plan. Next one is traffic and transportation. This is a new slide, and this is the handouts we brought. If it's okay, I just going to give this to the board as well. This is what's up on the screen, and we brought a number of copies to hand out as well. This dives into the traffic and transportation section of the DEIS. This is one of those critical sections that's going to be looked at. As David had alluded to, this includes a full analysis of 16 intersections, and you see the map that identifies the location of those various intersections. They are surrounding this property. It is not just where those access points are. It is in the Warren Avenue, the Linda Avenue, Stevens, all of those intersections that abut this property, in addition to Summit Lake Drive, Columbus, all of which will be studied as part of this traffic analysis. So there's an extensive list of intersections that would be studied as part of this. There is a detailed list, shows you each individual intersection, but again, all of that will be analyzed as part of this DEIS process. The access points, we've heard a lot about the two access points to Westerly as well as to Gold. Those will be analyzed as part of this traffic section. How those roadways are constructed, vehicle access to and from, emergency access to and from those locations, and how those neighborhoods and driveways will interact with the proposed subdivision that's shown before you right now. So again, these are things that we will get into. To get into some of the specifics of the traffic study, we look at peak hour analyses. This is something you were typically used to hearing about, the peak AM hour, the peak PM hour, the peak Saturday hour. How much traffic is this proposed development going to generate? And we're going to look at it as compared to the existing intersections around us and look at how that is going to happen. So all of that will be included in this analysis. We will look at construction traffic as part of this traffic study. Where is construction traffic coming to and from the site? How are these homes going to be constructed? All of that gets analyzed as part of the traffic study. We talked about first responders, emergency service vehicles, access to and from throughout the project site as well. And then any road improvements. You know, we may go through this analysis and determine that there might be specific road improvements that are required, whether it be on Linda, whether it be on Gold, maybe it's on Stevens, depending what the analysis reveals, that is going to dictate where potential improvements might be required. Again, one of the things that we're trying to get out of this process is the analysis of these potential impacts and how are they being mitigated. And if there's an improvement that's being identified, then the applicant would be responsible for mitigating that impact and complying with that. This is the list of intersections. Next section that I wanted to spend a few more minutes on as well was stormwater. We've seen a number of comments that have come in from the neighbors regarding stormwater. We sit at a high point of a site. This is a plateau. The site drains and discharges to different areas. There is minimal to no stormwater improvements that we are aware of on the property itself. There's a lot of sheet flow. There's a lot of things that discharge off to the adjacent properties. We've received even some videos showing some of the water concerns that are coming throughout the different portions of the property. That is another thing that will be looked at. One of the first things that we analyze as part of the stormwater plan is the regional and local drainage patterns. How is everything draining off of this site? What is it draining into? And where does it go from there? So it's not only just exactly what's happening on the property itself, it's how does it get into the infrastructure that surrounds the property and where does it drain from there? So your code, the New York State code, and it's identified in the scoping document as well, requires us to analyze up to the 100-year design storm. So it's over 9 inches of rainfall over a 24-hour period is the storm event that we have to look at. So it's significant rainfall events that we have to analyze as part of this process. So we will look at that, and we are required to not increase, and quite frankly, the obligation is to decrease some of those storms, the amount of stormwater coming off this property. So in addition to looking where it's going off of the property, we are looking how it's going to be contained. We're constructing roadways, new homes. All of this water gets collected as part of a stormwater pollution prevention plan and gets detained and treated on site, as opposed to what's occurring right now. So we are going to have an opportunity to develop a robust stormwater pollution prevention plan that looks into each of these items. As I said, I don't have the answer to the drainage issues that are on the property now, but these are the things that we're going to study as part of this process as we go through the DEIS. Finally, back to the last piece here, a couple of other sections that we will dive into is utility infrastructure, sewer, water infrastructure, all of which we've started to look at, we've started to analyze. These are things that will be looked at as part of this process where we're connecting into. Community demographics, facilities. We heard comments regarding school children. This is the section of the DEIS where we will analyze the number of projected school children and how it's going to work with the school district and potential impacts associated with that. We will reach directly out to the school district. The school district will have opportunities to look at our analysis, to provide input and feedback on it as well. So we will work hand in hand. This is not just our statement that will be there. There's information that will be put together, but they will have an opportunity to review this as part of this process and provide their input as well. Fiscal and economic conditions, the tax status of the property, projected tax income in the future. We'll do a complete analysis of that. Noise and air quality, again, another environmental constraint that gets looked at. Construction, we get into the details of the construction sequencing and phasing of the project. How are the roadways being constructed? All of this will be detailed in a construction management plan as part of the DEIS. And then finally, alternatives. One of the last sections in the DEIS, we know this is a critical component here. One of the alternatives that have been identified is that alternative access. We already have provisions and show it on the plan. However, this is where we will really get into the nuts and bolts of that access, alternative access to Summit Lake Drive, how that connection would be made. So there will be a complete alternative plan that looks at those different access points and is something that would be studied as part of the DEIS. And then finally, it's important to note that we will work with staff, but I know staff has made us aware third-party consultants will be, is our understanding, will be hired as part of this process. Traffic, stormwater, et cetera, will be reviewed by various consultants. So we will supply a number of the information and the pieces there, and then additional consultants will be reviewing this process, the DEIS, as we go through this project as well. So.
Just final comments. I've been asked, particularly in light of the amount of public involvement, and it's wonderful that all these folks are here and can hear this on night one. Tonight is a public hearing or public participation in connection with the scope. There are multiple additional opportunities for public participation in the process. In fact, once the draft environmental impact statement is prepared and accepted by your board as lead agency is complete, we are required under state law to have a public hearing on the DEIS. That will likely happen contemporaneously with a mandatory public hearing under the New York State Town Law on the proposed preliminary subdivision plat. After the DEIS, comments come in from the public, from your board, from outside governmental agencies. My client and our team are then required again under state law to respond to all of the questions, comments, and issues raised in what's called a final environmental impact statement. There will be another document that we will be assembling, submitting it to you, your professional staff and consultants. That document then has to be reviewed and determined if it is complete. You have an opportunity to seek public comment either in writing or at a hearing on that, and then we get to the end of the secret process. That is a long duration with multiple opportunities for public participation, not only from the folks in the community, but also from other governmental agencies at the state, at the county level. They'll all be involved in this. So, as I said at the outset, we are not seeking any approval of an aspect of the project. What we are, the only thing we are seeking is to come to an agreement on what the extensive list of issues are that we need to study. You have a draft scope from us. We are here to take down all of the comments. We're here to answer any procedural questions. Tonight is not an opportunity for a flat-out hearing on every aspect of the subdivision. That takes place at the DEIS hearing and at the preliminary subdivision hearing. With that, Mr. Chairman, you've got my whole team here, my client here. We're happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we are prepared to listen to the comments from the public.
Mr. Steinmetz, could you just elaborate on or clarify what the length of time of this whole process, as you just laid out?
So, Mr. Suma, that will be determined largely by the folks on the other side of the dais, by all of you and by your professional staff.
But generally speaking.
This is generally speaking, we are looking at certainly well into 2027 as we embark on multiple phases of analyses. This is not a 6-month process. This is an extensive project. And as I said at the outset, and I really I want to commend my client for allowing our team to do this. We could have stood here and said, you know, it's zoning compliant. We're not seeking the rezoning that I know the supervisor heard from a number of different developers who knocked on his door with expressing interest in this property, wanting to do something very different on here. We're coming in with 87 single-family lots, quite consistent with certainly Rolling Hills to our north. It is zoning compliant. We're not seeking a rezoning, but we asked for a positive declaration. I would say I didn't expect this many folks to show up at the scoping session, but we knew there would be community involvement as well. There should be. In light of that, my client and our team determined that we were going to do this the thorough and exhaustive way. Here we are.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Any questions or comments from board members?
My only comment is, again, I just want to establish that this is a long process, that everybody is going to have a lot of opportunity to discuss, to read the comments, to read the reports as they come back, to comment on them, to come back. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. So I was a little surprised also tonight that there's this many people that came for the scoping session, but I just want that to be established early on. We want to hear from everybody tonight, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity to review and comment on all of these reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members?
Just procedurally, tonight, we're not adopting a scope. You're going to hear all of the comments, and this board will provide comments to our consultant, and the scoping outline that is available online will change as a result of your comments and our comments on it. So it's not being adopted tonight.
And we very well, based on the audience that's here tonight, may not hear everybody tonight, so we may have to have another session at some point to continue the scope and conversation. And also, as a point of reference, written form is also perfectly acceptable as well. Okay, any other comments or questions from board members?
I have a question for Pat, our consultant. At what point does the 87 home count get contested, if it is contested by the board and the public?
The 87 lots are the applicant's proposal. They have made a representation to you tonight that they believe it's compliant. We have to go through this process in order to determine if it's compliant. And you heard Mr. Villarreal explain to you, it's not only the geometry of the lots, it's environmental conditions and infrastructural issues. It is the DEIS that will vet all of those issues. So the lot count is simply a placeholder for the moment to begin a review of the project, that we won't know what that number is until we finish the DEIS portion of this project.
Is there an independent consultant that verifies the lot count on that?
You verify that lot count, and you can retain whomever you need to retain to determine make that decision.
And I do think that's a good idea, once we get to that point. But that's just me. I'm sorry to cut you off, I just realized. Okay, any other questions or comments from board members?
One other question. Will the consultant be looking at the Mount Pleasant Envision plan to possibly implement alternatives that are somewhat recommended in the Envision plan? For example, the plan asks to consider deducting wetland area from the buildable parcel, the area of a parcel. So if you take a deep dive into the Mount Pleasant Envision plan, you may find yourself with alternatives that could be considered and included in the SECRA.
Shouldn't have.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to.
It's more of a statement.
More a statement. Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay. I have prepared a comment. I spent quite a bit of time because I have a lot of thoughts and I wanted to put them together so they were organized and cogent for you. So bear with me for a few moments. All right, good evening. I want to begin thanking the public for coming out tonight. I want to pause here off script. I want to thank the public for the engagement, the amount of work that the public has done, the letters, the emails, the documents, the videos, everything that has come. I have read every single one of those documents, every single one of them. They do help form the board's opinion. They do help form our thoughts. And it gives us a view of what you are thinking and what you're experiencing in your part of town. So thank you for all that. Your participation is a vital component of the SECRA process, helping this board identify the real-world concerns that should be addressed in a proposal of this magnitude. My focus tonight is to determine whether the draft environmental impact statement DIS scope as currently drafted is broad enough to provide the board with the substantial evidence necessary to make a reasoned decision. Given that this is a type 1 action, it is important to ensure the record is analytically complete rather than just procedurally compliant. I want to emphasize that the applicant bears the burden of proof to provide a record that is sufficient for this board to make its required findings under SEQRA and the town code. I recognize the landowners have legally protected rights to make reasonable use of their land consistent with the town code. However, these rights are exercised within the regulatory framework of New York State Town Law, Article 16 and SEQRA. While the use may be permitted by zoning or may not be permitted by zoning, the subdivision of land is a discretionary act under Town Law 278. A cluster subdivision is intended to be a tool for resource preservation. It is not an automatic entitlement to maximum unit count. Therefore, the scoping process must evaluate the realistic yield of the land and not a theoretical paper layout to determine what actually can be built given the physical constraints of the site. The statutory intent of clustering is to enable, encourage, and flexibility of design in such a manner as to preserve the natural and scenic qualities of open lands. Furthermore, the town's own documents state that clustering should be used to encourage the preservation of open space for park, recreation, and conservation or other purposes, and to preserve the natural beauty and ecological health of the town. This board must ensure that the open spaces in this proposal is not merely the unbuildable leftovers or of a dense layout. Clustering is a tool for resource preservation, not a mechanism to bypass environmental constraints. Consequently, the DIS must include a realistic yield analysis based on a compliant conventional layout, not a paper layout that ignores physical site constraints. Okay, number 3, I'm going to talk about the comprehensive plan a bit. The town board formally adopted the Mount Pleasant Comprehensive Plan in 2022. I don't have the exact date, but I know it's 2022. In New York, the comprehensive plan serves as the constitutional backbone for all local land use regulations. Because SEQRA requires an assessment of a project's consistency with adopted land use plans, the 2022 plan is a mandatory benchmark for our review. The 2022 comprehensive plan is a mandatory benchmark for our review. The board should evaluate whether this proposal aligns with the plan's stated goals. Environmental sustainability, the comprehensive plan prioritizes the protection of waters, bodies, wetlands, steep slopes, and forests. Community character, the plan directs us to preserve and enhance the unique character of the town's hamlets. Infrastructure resiliency, the plan mandates that we improve the town's resilience to extreme weathers. To satisfy the hard look doctrine, the board should consider whether the DIS scope should address the following site-specific realities. Number 1, and this is a big number 1. I said this before to this applicant, just Google Mount Pleasant, New York flooding. So number 1, stormwater infrastructure capacity. The board must evaluate the project's impact on pre-existing non-conformant infrastructure conditions. We cannot look at the site in a vacuum. The scope should use the September 2021 Hurricane Ida, and July 2023 storm events as a baseline condition to evaluate real-world performance. Evaluate the cumulative impact of this project alongside other pending developments to ensure the local watershed is not pushed past a breaking point. And I'll say, my heart breaks out for people. There was enormous flooding going on in this town. I saw the videos, I saw the news. This is real. So I know that. I'm getting off script a bit, but I just want to make sure I want people to understand that I am, one board member, aware of what has happened in this town with flooding in people's homes. Okay, I got off script a little bit and threw me off my... Okay. Some of the specific areas that are critical, Brady Avenue, Elwood Avenue, and Linda Avenue, there's been repetitive flooding over there, and these are all areas that are downstream, and it's cumulative from those areas. Okay, number 2, constraint-based yield and meaningful alternatives. SEQRA is a search for alternatives. I'm going to state that again. What we have here tonight is one plan. SEQRA is a search for alternatives. What does that mean? That means we should see other plans and other ideas of how the site should be configured to maximize environmental benefit, to maximize or minimize the impact to the community. That's what SEQRA does. I suggest the scope require a design-informed alternative that avoids all disturbance of slopes over 15% and all wetland buffers. This allows the board to compare a realistic, environmentally sensitive layout against the proposed 87 ute density. School and public service sensitivity. The 2022 plan acknowledges that maintaining high-quality schools is essential. That's in the comprehensive plan. The scope should include a project-specific school impact study with a sensitivity testing to ensure the district has the actual capacity to absorb potential growth without degrading service quality. Number 4, traffic and safety. The comprehensive plan advocates for improving traffic safety and circulation. With 22 acres remaining in institutional use, the scope should address the interaction between residential and institutional traffic, including swept path analysis for school buses and emergency vehicles. Okay, wrapping it up, here's my conclusion. Ultimately, SEQA requires the board to certify that any approved project minimizes adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent practicable. The purpose of the scope and process is to ensure the DIS contains a reasoned elaboration of all potential impacts. If the scope does not include those refinements, specifically the realistic yield analysis, the 2023 stormwater benchmarks, and the cumulative impact study, there is a concern that the record may lack the analytical depth necessary to provide a rational basis for eventual determination or to demonstrate consistency with the 2022 comprehensive plan. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is shift my focus slightly, talk about next steps for this meeting, which I have over here under these other papers. Okay. So I want to frame how we're going to organize tonight. And help me tonight. There's a lot of people here. I'm going to try to make sure I do a good job, but keep me straight. Sometimes I don't see people. I don't recognize hands. I don't see things right. So just keep me straight. We have a significant turnout tonight, which we appreciate. Before we begin, I want to clarify the planning board's role and the specific purpose for the session. Under our regulations, every applicant has the right to submit a proposal. In this case, the board has determined that due to this project's scale, it may have significant adverse impacts. Consequently, we are requiring a rigorous, extensive environmental review. Tonight is scope and the very first step. Our goal is to define exactly what the applicant must study, such as traffic, infrastructure, and school impacts. Because the project design will likely evolve during this review, we ask that you refrain from substantive comments. You can have that time in future meetings, but focus on the merits of the proposal tonight. There will be focus on the scoping element of it. There will be multiple public hearings later in the process specifically for that feedback. I will be trying to gently redirect speakers and guide you who stray into substantive testimony back to the topic of scoping. That's what we're here. We're in a formulaic approach tonight. It's a very specific formula governed by New York State secret law. I apologize if this seems abrupt in advance, but we must follow the legal regulations that govern this process. Regarding the concerns over lot counts, that number is currently the applicant's proposal, not ours. That is the applicant's proposal. That is not this board's proposal. The board's job, assisted by our staff and specialized consultants, is to determine the final appropriate density based on zoning, environmental constraints, and infrastructure. We will hold this session. I'm going to try to keep this to 90 minutes if we can. And I'm not going to sit here with the clock. But we have other applicants behind here, so let's try to be efficient where we can. I'm not going to be hammering the desk at this tonight, but let's just try to be efficient and mindful. There's a lot of people who want to speak. If we don't get to everyone, we will continue the scoping session to a future meeting and establish a generous written comment period. And written comments are as important, if not in some ways easier. As a board member, I get to read them and see them and research things. Once the scope is set, the applicant will begin a multi-month process to prepare the draft environmental impact statement tonight. And I'll say it again. I don't think, based on the crowd that's here tonight, that this is going to be the last scoping session. I don't think that, because we have so many people here that I think we need to make sure we get this public input into us. But I also ask that if you heard it before, you don't have to say it again, because the applicant is now charged to respond to those things. The other thing I'm going to ask really quickly, just to kind of frame the meeting, there's a lot of people here tonight. And emotions can go high, emotions can go low. What I'm going to ask everybody to do, myself included, because I have never been, I've tried to be good, but sometimes I'm not. Be kinder than necessary. Be kinder than necessary. I had a director at my job who always said, be kinder than necessary. It's a very practical thing to say. Let's get through the night. Let's get through with some nice feedback to the applicant here, but I'll ask the applicant as well as the public to be kinder than necessary. With that being said, the format for tonight for getting people up to speak is I'm going to ask, before I get into that, any final questions or comments from board members? No, I didn't think so. Okay. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to give everybody a chance to raise their hands. And when you raise your hand, I'll assign you a number. I know there's people in the back. I'm going to do my best that I can do to get everyone's hand recognized. So bear with me on that. If anybody's in the back, you want to come forward, I'll see you guys too. And if you have a number, you can speak. Come up to the mic, state your name for the record, all that kind of good stuff will help guide you on that application process. So I'm going to do one thing in front of you, Mr. Vita. I'm going to do chairman preference. I'm going to have Mr. Vita number 2, Mr. McCarthy number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12. And if you're done with your hand given, just lower your hand. Anybody else in the way back? Did I miss somebody? Did you? Anybody in the way back in the lobby? 13, 14. Oh, I'm sorry. 15, 16. Okay. Anybody else? We'll do the best we can. And thank you for coming out tonight. And we'll have 17 people come up to speak to us, starting with Sister. Yeah. Yes. So just a little speaking to the mic. People actually listen to us, which is a good thing to have.
Okay.
So just state your name for the record and why you're here and all that kind of good stuff.
It's Mother Marie Edward from Rosary Hill Home in Hawthorne. I have my statement, which is concise. The proposed plan for development of the property adjacent to our convent property is of serious concern to our community. 5 homes, possibly with pools, are to be built right up to our property line. As I mentioned in my previous letter to the planning board, the Sisters Convent is quite near this fence. The care of our patients continues 24/7, and so some of the sisters are resting at times throughout the day. The nearness of the proposed homes would be a threat to our privacy and the quiet essential to our life. Also, there is a swatch or strip of trees approximately 90 feet in width, which would have to be cut down for the proposed homes to be constructed. The loss of the trees would be detrimental to the environment, as well as a loss for any new residents, as well as a loss to us. We respectfully request that if this development proceeds, the plans are adjusted so that there is a preservation of the trees and a distance of 90 feet from the beginning of the new residence property from our fence.
Thank you, Sister, and thank you for the work that your organization does. Thank you. Number 2. That's you. You have a tough act to follow.
Thank you, Chairman Collins. Thank you, planning board members. Clearly, everyone's received my emails. Sure, I'll say that in 1 second. Thank you again for your service. You asked us to be kind. I wanted to start by being kind. Good evening. My name is Dominic Vita. I'm from Hawthorne, New York. I'll speak into the mic a little bit. I wanted to quickly summarize the requests I've made to this board in writing regarding the draft scoping document. My requests are to first, verify the claimed 87-home conventional yield through an independent expert at the applicant's expense. I think you already got that covered. Second, extend the study area beyond the arbitrary quarter-mile radius to capture actual impacts on traffic, schools, and flooding. Third, require the DEIS to evaluate a broader range of alternatives, including reduced density and preservation-focused layouts. Fourth, conduct a dedicated review of the combined effects of this and other nearby developments on infrastructure and taxes. Fifth, evaluate stormwater impacts on downstream and downhill residents rather than focusing solely on on-site compliance. It's really important. Sixth, conduct traffic studies during school days and capture peak congestion and cumulative regional growth. Seventh,
Obtain official projections from school districts regarding capacity and the indirect impact of demographic shifts. Eighth, compare the projected tax revenue against the actual long-term cost of municipal services. Ninth, broaden the definition of community character to include functional lived experiences and implement a more robust public Q&A process. And 10th, ensure strict compliance with New York State Fire Code regarding access points and emergency infrastructure. My hope is that the Planning Board scopes the DEIS in a way that fully examines all impacts flowing from this proposal. Chairman Collins, you made it clear you intend to do that, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. SECRA is the floor, not the ceiling. You, as lead agent, set the ceiling. You determine what to look for. Don't settle for what the applicant is giving you. Take that hard look, as you said you will do. Expand the area of impacts. Broaden the scope. Consider what the proposed action would mean to those who live west and downhill in terms of flooding. Rely on your own independent advisors. Consider cumulative impacts and whether there is an overall net benefit or just added operational costs that our town can't bear from yet another large development that doesn't adequately and fairly cover the costs it contributes to our town. And remember that our town must still absorb the impacts of recent developments, including those that have been approved or are nearly approved, impacts to flooding, traffic, school density, and rising safety and infrastructure costs. Adding this development now could exacerbate those impacts and introduce new ones that our town is not prepared to handle, financially or otherwise. We cannot afford to authorize harm now and hope that remediation catches up later. Our town is relying on you to take this opportunity to improve things for our entire town, for those who live downhill from this site, and for everyone counting on this board as lead agent to fully examine the scope of impacts. Thank you for the work that you do. Have a good evening.
And thank you for the work that you do.
Got it.
Thank you. Number 3. Come on up, sir.
Curious about the water source, where they're going to pull the water source to the homes. And, I'm sorry, Frank Calandrino, Warren Avenue, Hawthorne. Where they're going to pull the water source to the homes and the surrounding homes and Rosary Hill, will we be losing water
So
pressure? the
your question for the scoping document is, you
Thank
want
you.
the applicant to, let me just frame it for you,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
Because he has to answer the question eventually, right? So your question is, what is the water source for the site?
For the homes, the drinking
homes on
water, the
site.
showers.
So that's something we could frame in the secret process. He'll have to get back to us with that answer. That's going to frame his conversation that he needs to come back to us with.
Okay.
I don't have an answer to that question.
Yeah, and-
What we're doing is building the house frame. Like, these are the questions they have to answer for us
Okay.
at some point. So that's a good and salient question. He's going to answer that question once he
Right.
gets to that point, but he won't answer
Right,
it tonight.
we're losing water pressure too, for Rosary Hill and the
That's a
surrounding
good point to
homes.
make. Losing water pressure, you want to know where the water's coming from, the source of the water. Good and fair questions. He's going to need to answer those questions.
Okay.
That's a good and fair question. Thank you for coming out tonight. I think we got a little screwed up.
They're free.
Okay.
All right.
I almost
Good
said
evening, everybody.
I almost
Carlo
said good
Valente,
morning.
Hawthorne, New York. I'm not going to repeat anything that was already said. I'm just going to focus on one item on behalf of the Hawthorne Fire Department. As per the 2025 Fire Code, I'm just going to ask the applicant to focus on Appendix D, 104.3, 106.3, and 107.2.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Remember when I said, hold on, folks, 1 second, when I said bear with me, I already screwed up. I screwed up the numbering somehow. I know you were, I think, 3. So let's readjust the numbers. So thank you for bearing with me, Mr. McCarthy.
And can I compliment everyone on being concise and giving us stuff we can use for this scope? Thank you.
You're following a nun and a few other residents, so the nun's the toughest act to follow, I think. And Mr. McCarthy, you can grab the mic or raise it, whatever you want to do.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman and the Planning Board, thank you for your service. I served on the Planning Board 5 years and 4 years on the Town Board. My name is Dennis McCarthy from Hawthorne. So I understand what you do. It's not an easy process, and this is probably the toughest application you're going to get. So I basically shared information. I had sent some stuff previously, but I also want to just prepare this also for the public. I shared the Brady Avenue Drainage Improvement Project. This is from Westchester County, published in 2007, which basically explains the stormwater flooding issues that we have that affects the Flykill Brook section that goes into the Sawmill River sewer system. It affects a 13.5 acre impact, 14 residents and 9 commercial buildings down near the Brady Avenue area that you referenced, Mr. Chairman. It talks about the mitigation of the 100-year flood event, and there was a proposal in 2007 that there's three portions of it. Phase 1 was $660,000 that the town was going to do in 2008. We received $130-something thousand from the state. Okay.
It echoes a little bit.
All right. We received money from the state to complete this repair. It was 3 culverts that were going to be installed. Second to that, there was a second alternative and a third alternative that respectively would reduce the 13.5 acre flood zone to 2.71. However, that basically would buy out 13 residences and 9 commercial properties. That's how bad this flooding is, that it affects people annually. And the 100-year stormwater effect is very significant. So that's the first thing I wanted to share with you and the public. The second thing that was referenced, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for talking about the comprehensive plan. I agree the comprehensive plan has to be included in this, and I ask our planning consultant to work on that, please, with the planning board. So the second thing I shared was the built environment of the comprehensive plan. And if you look at it, it basically lists all the institution uses throughout the town. The institutional uses, there are a total of 20-something institutional uses. This is the 3rd largest institutional use in the town of Mount Pleasant. It encounters almost 129 acres. In the built environment institutional use, it specifically talks about in section 7.5, ensure that any reuse or redevelopment of institutional uses located in the town is accomplished in a manner that is consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood and the goals of the envisioned Mount Pleasant. Most of the institutional uses are governed by single-family residential zoning. It's recognized that use of redevelopment pursuant to this underlying zoning may not fulfill the goals of envisioned Mount Pleasant. So selective, carefully planned, prudent zoning modifications may be warranted in certain circumstances. Continuing, in section 717, infrastructure, adequately maintain the sanitary sewer system to the second page, to meet current and future needs. Establish a long-term plan to video and inspect the town sewer lines to identify breaks, leaks, and damage. Repair, reline, replace damaged sanitary sewer lines. This, as I said before, was supposed to be done. Actually, that project was almost $1.2 million. That was back in 2007. Ensure the land use boards require developers to adequately evaluate the suitability of the sanitary sewer infrastructure to which the project will tie into, and repair or replace deficient or inadequate infrastructure. 3, 718, reduce and eliminate inflow and infiltration, I&I conditions that overtax the sanitary sewer system. 718-2, compile a prioritized list of inflow and infiltration conditions that require corrective action. 718.3, consider adopting a zoning provision requiring I&I mitigation reduction for all new developments contributing effluent to the municipal sanitary sewer system. Westchester County recommends a 3-to-1 ratio, which means for every 1 gallon of effluent added to the system, 3 gallons of infiltration and inflow are removed, either on-site or pursuant to the prioritized list. Continuing, thank you for your patience. 724, ensure that any reuse or redevelopment of the institutional uses located in town is accomplished in a manner that is consistent with the character of the surrounding neighborhood and the goals of Envision Mount Pleasant. Consider the creation of a new overlay zoning covering the institutional uses. This is what the town board should have done. This is 4 years later of this comprehensive plan, and the town board hasn't done any zoning updates whatsoever. No updates to the code. The last updates to the code were fixing fence lines that was 24 inches from your neighbor and some other baloney. But this zoning covering the institutional uses that permit the I'm sorry, I have to be nice. That permits the continued operation of the existing institutional uses, but also permits additional appropriate uses subject to new density, bulk height, and zoning area controls, specifically designed in respect to the relationship of surrounding neighborhoods. Almost finished here. With the alternative residential uses should be looked at, including senior housing, assisted living facilities, and other appropriate providing massing, height, and bulk regulations to areas of the adjacent to single-family neighbors. Any reuse or development of institutional uses must not result in significant adverse impacts and must not overburden municipal services, infrastructure, sewers, traffic networks, and schools. Reuse and redevelopment of institutional sites must blend in seamlessly to the surrounding neighborhoods or be developed in a manner that screens and buffers the new use in such a way it becomes innocuous. Access to new development should be cited to avoid local streets and minimize traffic related to impacts to existing residential neighborhoods. Planning board members, please visit the roadways that they're planning to use. Gold Street and what is that other street that breaks through a cul-de-sac? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Please visit those streets and see them personally.
So,
All right. I'm finishing up on this. As most institutional properties contain large areas of open space, ensure these community-defining open spaces are maintained to the extent practicable by the current use, or if properties are redeveloped in the future. If institutional uses are redeveloped, impose a requirement that redevelopment plans be accompanied by an open space preservation plan, and that not only addresses the dedication of amount of open space, but also assures that the open space is functional and interconnected so that open space corridors are maintained or enhanced. The town planning comprehensive plan also spoke about a Mount Pleasant Recreation Trailway and open space corridor. Almost there. The last thing I want to speak on, and just a quick mention. Westchester County Planning Board, Steep Slopes, has basically published, that's the blue page that you have there. They proposed they proposed planning development for the whole county, and they addressed everything. One of the things they addressed, if you just flip over the page, the last page is highlighted on that document. One of the things they addressed is the steep slopes. And I'm going to just jump to the highlighted. When considering steep slopes restrictions, such as density reductions, a municipality should closely examine the extent to which steep slopes are present in the area and make a fresh determination as to whether the overall zoning density is appropriate for the natural conditions prevailing there. Mr. Chairman, you touched on this a little bit. The County Planning Board recommends against the use of density reduction formulas in residentially zoned areas where the minimum lot size is 1 acre or larger. That's this applicant. 40,000 square feet for these communities that use this as a threshold rather than the zoning of 1 acre. An actual acre is 43,560 square feet. The use of the presence of steep slopes as a limiting determinant is a legitimate technique in these zoning districts where the minimum lot size is such that there is no flexibility in the siting of development. Basically, they're saying when you have 1 acre zoning, there should be no steep slopes effect. And closing it up, I shared the history of Mount Pleasant, the wetland deterioration and flooding by email. Thank you for addressing it, Mr. Chairman. You said you read this. This basically backs up what the Westchester County 2007 document. I also shared an evaluation of what I read from the chapter and verse on Mount Pleasant planning with the town board. And I also shared 2 items where I had to appeal to the town board, where I requested freedom of information for tree preservation. We have a conservation advisory committee headed by Steve Covey. He was there when I served. And he presented tree preservation twice to our town board. So I called up Steve Covey and I talked to him about the tree preservation in his town. It's ridiculous. There is none. There's virtually nothing. So he said he presented it twice to the town board to please foil it.
So how does it, just frame this up with, in terms of the scope and document?
So I foiled it. So in other words, we need tree preservation in the master plan. That's in the master plan, as well as the county. The county serves as a reference in addition to our master plan. So the county basically wants things congruent when it has to do with tree protection, steep slopes, wetlands, waterways. You know, there's wetlands here on this property that supply the Davis Brook, which supplies the Bronx River, which supplies Kensico watershed. That's a 3-county situation. So I requested the tree preservation, and I also requested steep slopes information. My point is that I couldn't get any of this information from a town board. So unfortunately, your job is not easy, but I know you can accomplish it. I know you'll handle it. I asked that the planning consultant assist in whatever way possible to reference the Mount Pleasant comprehensive plan as well as the county initiatives, because this is the largest development that's coming to the town, and this is going to change the town forever. And it's not just this plan, but there's a lot of plans coming forward to you. But this really is the one that's going to make or break where we're going to go in the future, because as is being said, these developers are coming in saying they have as of right. It's baloney. There is no as of right. You wouldn't be here if there's as of right. Nothing's as of right. Okay? Just because it's zoned doesn't mean they can do 1 acre zoning there.
So, Mr. McCarthy, let's bring it specific to the scope and document.
All right, so the steep slopes, I'm asking for tree scope. So of course, the applicant has to pay for contractors, but for-profit consultants, they all know each other. So I'm going to ask that we get a not-for-profit or non-profit agency to evaluate the tree scope, because the elimination of 35 trees for excavation, as you said, does not fall in line with the plan that our town created, as well as the steep slope issues, to have that evaluated by a not-for-profit, non-profit, as well as the watershed issues, to also have evaluated by a not-for-profit consultant. I find it also disingenuous, this applicant, and I'd like to be evaluated, the 30 houses or whatever it is in the middle of the 2 schools. I find that to be disingenuous.
And we can get to that.
Yeah, all right. Well, I find that this is the scope. This is their scope. So I'm addressing the whole scope. So I find it to be disingenuous that they include these houses between the schools, and they're not going to utilize them. They just utilize them for maximum capacity. They're giving them back to the school almost 21 acres. That's just a sign of that, you know, we can't be the developers of Mount Pleasant. We have to be the town of Mount Pleasant. And I thank you for your service.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. Remember I said I messed up a little bit. What number are you? 5. You're 5. Okay. Did number 4 go? You're 4. Okay, we're good. I told you I messed up a little bit. All right. Just state your name and all that for the record.
Good evening. My name is Manny Corona of Hawthorne. This is my first time here ever attending any sort of town meeting. I'm 26 years old, born and raised in the town of Mount Pleasant, and believe myself to be a long-term resident. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to the Planning Board for the opportunity of having a public hearing regarding this subdivision application. Thank you to the police officers and officials responsible for actively conducting the intersection survey for this development. Their work does not go unnoticed. Lastly, I'd like to say thank you to the town for a successful cleanup day in celebration of Earth Day this past Saturday, for providing the supplies every year to accomplish the common goal of cleanup and beautification as one united community. I've come to address future traffic concerns that the draft scoping document seeks to assess. Section H, labeled Traffic, Transportation, and Parking on pages 6, 7, and 8 of the document, at least the one that I had the most recent access to, discusses conducting a study for the collection of transportation data. This study is gathering data and hoping to present quantitative results for the traffic volume levels currently existing in the town at key intersections related to the project proposal. This study will also attempt to calculate the additional volume of traffic that the site would generate upon completion and produce volume capacity ratios for each intersection. The end goal of this study is to compare these before and after figures and prevent significant adverse impacts on community transportation if necessary. In my opinion, although the study already includes many key intersections that would be impacted, as seen on page 7 of the draft scoping document, the study doesn't take into consideration the actual roadway traffic on streets such as Rolling Hills Road, past both parking lots at Carroll Park, which would be used for through traffic for the completed development. I propose adding at least one more crucial intersection / traffic point to the study to better analyze and assess the potential adverse effects. My suggestion would be to add the turn / intersection of Rolling Hills Road and High Acres Drive to the scoping procedure. We need to work together towards a common goal as one united community in these tough times of change to have a chance at preserving the high quality standard of living, which I've known to be our home of Mount Pleasant. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for coming out tonight. And that's a good example of how what we're trying to do is trying to frame the conversation for the scoping document. So that was a good example of what we are doing tonight, framing the scoping document, the specific items that we need to hear back from the applicant at some point. So we are number 6, I believe. Speaker number 6 is coming. Is speaker 6 here? Okay, here we go, speaker 6.
Good evening. I'm speaker 6. My name's Larry Rhoda, 23 Westerly Lane. I hope everyone can hear me because I didn't hear half the meeting back there. Unfortunately, I'll have to watch it on TV. I want to address Lawrence Rhoda, 23 Westerly Lane. One of the biggest concerns of being a resident of Rolling Hills Road is how it was not mentioned in the plan regarding a traffic study. If you were going to make an entry-exit out of that neighborhood, I don't know, I've never seen a dead-end cul-de-sac circle completely wide with then a road going through. But if you were going to do that, I don't know how that was left out. Many things on that regarding road width, traffic studies. I personally think you're going to have traffic backed up Rolling Hills Road in the morning with adding 83 homes, 2 vehicles, 2 to 3 vehicles a home. It's going to be a problem. On Westerly Lane, when you come up to that island, nobody knows what to do. It's an island right there with a tree stump in it. You can't miss it. When you go left, you're going to have a one head-on collision, literally. The road's not wide enough. So you say, how are you going to do that? A traffic study or engineers should come up with that. However, it's on an incline. So if you widen the road, you also have a cliff on your easterly lane of Westerly Lane. On the right side, you have utility poles 2 feet off the curb, which would make it pretty impossible if anyone's ever dealt with Con Ed in a project. That would be years long to get them to move those utility poles. Again, on the east side, you have a steep drop-off cliff. Right now, I don't believe the roadway is wide enough to accommodate emergency vehicles and/or traffic, delivery vans. It's pretty tight up there now. So that's one comment. I do believe there should be a traffic study for all of Rolling Hills. I think it was already mentioned regarding emergency access for fire vehicles, traffic. No one's mentioned law enforcement. you're going to have to add cops, okay? Cops are expensive, we know this. So in the overall study, I'm sure based on those amount of homes, at the end of the day, this town needs to be safe. Adding that many homes, that many alarms, that many medical aids, that many domestics, you're going to have a strain on our law enforcement. Overall, I could tell you that when we walked around Rolling Hills, the entire neighborhood is really against this. It's one way in, one way out. That adds value to the community. That's the reason why many people bought there over the years. So in essence, I do believe you're going to devalue the neighborhood of Rolling Hills Road by making it an entrance exit. With that being said, I believe the whole neighborhood is pretty much in agreement that the road width in all Rolling Hills is pretty tight to begin with, so safety is a major concern. As we've seen with youth on scooters, bicycles, things like that, the double yellow line, normal sized vehicles have to go over the double yellow line to make just the everyday ins and outs of that community. So I just want you to also keep that in mind as well. And then also, I'd like an explanation of how a cul-de-sac, is it going to become a roundabout? How do you have a full-size cul-de-sac with a road at the end? I can't picture it, so I'd like that in the study as well, of what you plan to do with that big, large, round cul-de-sac, and then making a roadway through there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Okay, we are at speaker 7, I believe.
Yep.
Come on up. Price is Right. That's perfectly fine. You just jump right up to the mic and me have to just grab it if you'd like. Just state your name for the record.
Well, my name is Santo
And
Bastone.
do me a favor, people actually listen to us all the time on the news, on the TV.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect, thank you very much.
Okay, my name is Santo Bastone, Warren Avenue, Hawthorne. Just have a few things. In the scoping document, you have a listing of intersections. I'd just like to add the intersection of Bradford and Warren Avenue. You don't have that on the list. It's nearby the present-day access, but I don't know how it would affect, but it wasn't listed. I think it should be. Also, on pages 8 and 9, you mentioned Valhalla Fire and Ambulance. What about Hawthorne Fire and Ambulance? There's no mention of that. I think it should be mentioned. And lastly, it's basically a question that I have. When you're dealing with open space and this, what it was, this cluster subdivision that you have, in the open space, is there steep slopes and wetlands in the open space?
He's going to have to address that question so he can frame that conversation. That is a very good question.
Yeah,
He's
but-
going to have to answer that question as part of his response.
Yeah,
to
because
what
if you
you're
have to
saying tonight.
subtract the steep slopes and the wetlands out of there, that changes the equation as far as the housing.
Right.
And lastly, I was new on this. That's why the piece of paper is real small. I just went by the certified mail, and that's the reason why I'm here. But in terms of a portal that I hear that you have online, do I call up the planning?
Call the office. They can help you set up what you need to set up with
Okay.
email notifications.
Okay, thanks
Whatever
very much.
notification process there is. Staff does that. I don't get too involved with anything like that.
Yeah, but I figured I'd ask anyway.
It's a good question, Carolyn.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. And that little piece of paper had a lot of weight to it. Okay. Number 8.
The Ocho. Ed Morrison, Hawthorne, Warren Avenue. Chairman Collins and planning board members, I'd like to raise 3 points here tonight. The first is thank you to the planning board and the administrative support members. You all serve our community in a challenging and critical capacity. Thank you. As a planning board, you must balance many interests and opinions to help guide the development in our community in alignment with the long-term master plans, zoning laws, and environmental regulations in a way that is sustainable and supports the public welfare. Thank you. Many points are being raised here tonight, and thank you both parties for recognizing the ones that have already been submitted in email and including those. Those are, as you said, and thank the community at the beginning, in support of the planning board's function of responsible development. This is my second point. Every resident of Mount Pleasant, those of you serving on the planning board, those in the gallery tonight, and those who cannot attend, we have all have the same directional goal of high quality of community and individual well-being. So while many interactions between the planning board and the residents likely occur in challenging situations, please all remember that we are one community and all of these comments are in support of your function. And so I want to add, it's important to note, everything that we've talked about, including in the scope and considering, are broadly granted by New York State law to the planning board's authority. We are within our right for this. Each specific recommendation I know that I was involved with submitting is grounded in town law and New York State secret law and has precedent. We have a very well-educated populace here, as was cited in our town plan, in the comprehensive plan. The planning board's authority even extends to demanding revisions of the proposal, such as acreage and other significant aspects that have been discussed here tonight. This also has precedent. To reiterate, the community is in support of the planning board in advocating for comprehensive and appropriate impact studies. A couple additional, I think, the tax scenario planning that considers real estate value fluctuation that will ultimately affect tax roll should be a scenario that's considered in the study. Additional traffic intersections that are described as choke points in the envisioned comprehensive plan, such as the four corners of Kensco and Franklin. Also not mentioned is Garrigan and Broadway at the ShopRite intersection. These will become overloaded and need to be considered in the study. So the precedent is set that even if, and I think Dennis brought this up very well, even if it is zoning compliant, the board has the authority to demand changes. Lastly, this also isn't about Mount Pleasant versus developers. In our social and political and economic system, which is defined by people and circumstances far outside anyone here today, developers can serve a valuable function. They take on risk by deploying resources and capital with the goal of earning a fair return for that risk. That's fair in our system. And in exchange for that, in our community, it is reasonable for us to expect and demand comprehensive and appropriate impact studies are completed under the vested legal authority of the planning board. So in summary, my 3 points. Thank you, planning board and the town offices for your service. Thank you, community, for the recommendations, the fantastic recommendations, again, in support and combination of responsible development. And third, we are well within our rights here to demand and push for appropriate value exchange, which for the developers means a proper study to ensure the development in question is comprehensively interwoven into the fabric of our community character. Planning board has these powerful tools and the community is in full support of using them. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Okay, we are number 8, 9. You know, I never get this right. I need a clicker. I'm gonna get a butcher thing.
Oh, this is too high.
Yeah, you can just swivel on the bottom.
Yeah, I'm just gonna lower it a little bit. Okay. So I'm Anna Nelson. I live on Warren Avenue, and I think I emailed the planning board as well. I wanted to start off, Mr. Steinmetz, I think that you were surprised by the number of people here, and I think that it's really important that everyone here showed up. There was an article that came out 1 month ago. I don't know if people can hear on this. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay. There was an article that came out 1 month ago with your quotes on this project. And some of the quotes that you said were, while preserving important environmental features and maintaining the status quo in the school district would be part of what's happening in this large underutilized parcel. I don't see how that maintains the status quo. You said, quote, the site is not particularly environmentally sensitive, which I also don't find to be true. And you also said in one of your quotes, he said that no new improvements are proposed within the buffer areas and no significant adverse impacts to the wetland area are anticipated. I find some of these quotes to be alarming, and I think that that is part of why people are here
Just
today.
address the board, not the applicant himself.
Yeah.
It's better procedurally.
So I would like to address the issue of stormwater and flooding in this area. I know that I think I sent you guys the study on the Brady Avenue drainage basin, the one from the 1970s, but this drainage basin has been constrained for over 50 years. There's been reoccurring flooding, sediment buildup, bottlenecks in the culverts, and there has been noticeable flooding in the years since the Summit Estates was built. Mount Pleasant Engineering has documented flooding in this neighborhood up to 6 times a year, with some houses flooding 2 to 3 times per year. These studies have confirmed that the drainage system serving the area has structural limitations. I know that there's been several constraints that have been identified, including the single culvert that goes under the railroad. However, the residents who have felt flooding have not just been the residents at the bottom of the hill. The flooding impacts have been felt all the way down. And so the history is important because this area functions as a single watershed, and the Cedar Knoll property sits at the very top of this watershed. So when we're talking about the watershed, I'm just saying that the water is going to flow down through Linda Avenue, Warren Avenue, Frankfurt Street, and eventually reach the basin near Brady Avenue. And this means that any development happening at the top of the watershed is going to affect every property downstream. So my concern is with the amount of impervious surface that's going to be added here, it's not just simply whether or not the stormwater systems on the site are going to meet code, but it's about whether adding more development to the top of the watershed that already has documented constraints will put more pressure on everyone else downstream. So one of the things that I think that was talked about was the 100-year, I think it's like the 100-year storm. Yeah. We've had a couple 100-year storms happen over the last few years. And the American Society of Civil Engineers, my sister is a civil engineer who actually does stormwater management in Houston, said that a lot of development that she's been doing for both single-family homes and other land development has started to look at a 200-year and 500-year flood standard. So I would ask that we consider looking at higher than the 100-year storms because our system already cannot handle what's happening with the 100-year storms. I was going to say the town's own 2022 comprehensive plan, which people spoke about, talked about mitigating flooding impacts, and I think that the principles in that comprehensive plan should guide the decision. But approving the development uphill without fully addressing downstream drainage capacity risks compounding the existing problems, and quite frankly is negligent. And I just said, you know, when my sister was explaining this to me, she said, think of it as a bowl with Cedar Knoll sitting at the top, and that the water is going to flow down the basin and collect at the bottom. So when you build at the top of the bowl, the additional runoff is not going to stay there. It's going to move downhill because gravity does not respect property lines. So talking to my sister, she's a professional engineer, she said some of the things that might come up because she does these town planning board meetings all the time. We're talking about stormwater being managed on site. I really want them to look at the existing limitations downstream, and I think someone that came before talked about like a 0.25 acres like off the site looking at it, but I think that the entire watershed needs to be evaluated as part of this. And that if someone is going to develop, that the developers, I think this is also an opportunity for the town, if we do go ahead with some type of development on this property, and I think I said this at the last meeting, to consider having the developers help the town because it is expensive to pay for stormwater infrastructure. So if we are going to go ahead and develop at the top of the bowl, to be able to help the developers to help with some of the stormwater systems even outside that site, if that makes sense. So I just want to say that when you build uphill, it's going to flood downhill, and that I think in this we need to consider the full watershed, not just the immediate surrounding area.
And thank you, Ms. Nelson, for coming out tonight. And I know you've had extensive research, and that has been helpful and guiding. And I know you could do other things with that time that you're using to do this, but I appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Number 10.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tom Abenanti. I live on Bear Ridge Road. First of all, thank you for your patience and the work you're putting into us. It seems like you recognize how important this parcel is and that you're putting a lot of time into it. We recognize that you're all volunteers, and we appreciate your efforts on behalf of all of us and the town. Secondly, we should thank the community for coming out. It is so important that you come out the first time and that you come out over and over again. This is not a traditional piece of property, and it demands that we take a non-traditional approach. The developer proposes two alternatives. One is the traditional construction on the site, and the second one is one that's normally dismissed out of hand, and that is no action. I want to suggest in this case, we should seriously consider no action. Let me explain why. This has not been a popular site with the community, but let's recognize it's been a community use. It should stay a community use. And we should find a way to turn this property around for the benefit of the community. I want to suggest that the town's laws are not prepared to deal with what was referred to in Envision as reuse of the built environment. I want to suggest that this board suggests to the town board that it declare a moratorium, study the moratorium on development, and study Envision and the goals, and fashion a new zoning ordinance for this type of property. Now that sounds a bit different. It sounds like, but it's thinking out of the box. I have long experience in government. I spent some time as a town councilman in another community. I was on the county legislature. We managed to put together consortia of state money, county money, and local money to buy parcels like this and turn them around for community use. My understanding, and this is part of what I would like to see the developer study if we're going to move forward. What are the alternatives for this property? My understanding, speaking to people in the community, we need more ball fields. We need more open space. We need trails. It's too expensive for the town to do alone, but we can try to form a consortia and see if there's a way we can turn this parcel around. They're going to continue to use it as a school. That school deserves to have baseball fields and open space, etc. So I think we need to have a study of what else could we use this property for. That's the no build alternative, the no action alternative. I'd like to see a study as to what the community needs are there, and how can we somehow take advantage of this parcel. It's a unique parcel. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to turn something around in that part of town for our community. It's not going to be easy to fashion this. That's why I suggest a moratorium. It's going to take some work from some planners. People have a lot more knowledge than I do. But take that idea and see, is there something we can do with at least most of that property so that it's not a burden on the community, but is an asset for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. 11, right?
Yes.
I have a line on you. Okay, number 11, thank you for coming out tonight. Just grab the mic, you can raise it, lower it, whatever you need to do. You can just pull it right off too.
All right, I'm just gonna.
Okay.
I don't think this is gonna work. So, good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Diana Kolev, and I'm from the firm of Del Bello, Donnell, Weingarten, Wise, and Whitaker. We are often before you on other applications, and the reason I'm here tonight is because our longtime client, the Caber Group, is the owner of 465 Columbus Avenue, which is to the east of the site, and it's directly adjacent. It's the office building, when you saw it last on there, it's the office building with the parking lot. So we're not here to, we've been before your board, and they're familiar with the secret process. We understand what goes into it. We're not here to oppose the application. But our client, has some concerns about potential impacts on their property, and so we're going to monitor this application, and we just wanted to put on the record some of the general comments about what to be included in the scoping document. And it is a very comprehensive scoping document, so, and obviously we've worked with a lot of these professionals before. So on the stormwater management section, just wanted to request information about what would be the stormwater management on individual lots. There are a couple of lots that are directly next to this property at 465 Columbus Avenue. So we just want to better understand what would be done on individual lots for stormwater management, not just for the development as a whole. We also wanted to understand the mechanism for future maintenance and repair of stormwater improvements. So I'm assuming there's going to be an HOA, but we just wanted to get a better understanding of what's involved. So also, we wanted to, and I know this is going to be identified, any flood zones and wetlands, and how that's going to be managed. I understand that, if there are wetlands, are there going to be jurisdictional determinations by DEC or by the Army Corps of Engineers? Just want to make sure that that's included in the review. Just moving on to the construction management section. We wanted to include, ask that there be included description of measures to control air quality and noise during construction. Also to better understand the timing and length of construction, if there's any blasting, any rock removal. I also wanted to better understand, measures to control soil erosion. I know that was something that was referenced, but that was one of the concerns, just as a adjacent landowner. And also to better understand the phasing of the construction and the build out. So obviously this is a substantial number of homes. So we wanted to better understand the, how long are we talking about? 5, 10 years? Is it going to be in phases? So that's, I'm assuming that's part of the, of what's going to be included in the EIS, but we wanted to bring that to the board's attention. We also wanted to better understand the ingress and egress points. I understand that that's something that's currently being studied, but that, because we are in Columbus Avenue, so just trying to understand whether that Summit Lake Drive connection is something that is going to be studied, which I understand it will be. In addition, as an adjacent neighbor, we wanted to better understand the landscape buffer between those properties, especially those properties that are adjoining our properties. So what would be the landscape buffer that's proposed, and also the maintenance of that buffer. So because these are, again, on individual lots, so we wanted to understand that. Again, I know this was mentioned already, the removal of existing trees. So I'm sure that will be part of the scope. And let's see, just 2 more points. One is we just wanted to get some clarification as to whether or not there would be any environmental cleanup on the site. Are there any underground oil tanks? And would there be containment of that contamination? So I don't believe this is a brownfield site, but I just wanted to understand if there are existing tanks underground, how that would be handled. And also, again, I know this came up before, but water and sewer capacity, and how that would impact surrounding uses. So I appreciate your attention to this, and I hope that was helpful.
Several good points, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we are at number 12. Number 12.
Hi, Fran Carlucci, Hawthorne, New York. Just a couple quick points. One, in the, I think I sent this in email, in the Community Services and Facilities section of the document, someone already mentioned, you only mention Valhalla Fire Department, Valhalla Ambulance Corps. You definitely need to expand Hawthorne Fire Department and Ambulance, Thornwood Fire, Pleasantville Ambulance, because I believe every one of those emergency services has a touch point to this, particularly Hawthorne Fire and Ambulance, to this development. And my only other comment is really not for the developer, it's for the planning board. I thank you for your service. And something that can't be in this document, which is it's in your hands to keep the character of our community as it is.
It's actually that is a comment in the secret process, the character of the community.
Okay, which I think is probably more in your hands than anyone else's hands. And I know you're hearing the public, and I appreciate that. But please keep the character of our community in the forefront of your minds.
So
Thank
you.
you.
Okay. And I think we did screw up our numbering a little bit. I think you were 10 or whatever. Just come on up.
You're 13 now.
I'm 13. We'll make it happen. We'll make it
That's
happen.
an unlucky number. Can I be 14?
Well, it's not Friday, so you'll be okay.
Okay. My name is Carl Brownsdorf. I live at 126 Rolling Hills Road. I have 2 children and a dog. I live just south of the intersection of Rolling Hills and Westerly.
You can pull the mic right off of you. It helps you.
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I have 2 requests in regards to the scoping document, which I do understand perfectly. Thank you very much. I'd like to have a quality of life study done for existing residents. I think the Rolling Hills community is very unique. People refer to it as Rolling Hills not because of the road, but because of the character of the road. It also presents some challenges living on Rolling Hills Road. It is certainly a rolling hill. If you live on Rolling Hills or High Acres or certainly Westerly, I'm counting this evening no less than 13 blind turns where you don't exactly see where you're going and you're peeking through trees and through properties to see if there's another car coming. Some of those turns are exasperated at dusk when the sun is coming down. You literally cannot see your way up Rolling Hills Road, and you just hope there isn't a child in front of you. Rolling Hills Road is a beautiful community. Again, it does bring some challenges. I have 2 small children. They've taken advantage of living on Rolling Hills Road, having Carroll Park, having large properties, kids going up and down that road with their fishing poles. They fish there. They love it. Rolling Hills Road during COVID was a bit of an oasis. People were kind of out and about. They were respectful of others, but they were still kind of living their lives. And in some way, our children on Rolling Hills have not become video game junkies. They love the outdoors, but I think that's what Rolling Hills has afforded them. So I would request a quality of life study for existing residents, but not just for one resident or one road or one data point, but along the way, because each street is unique. Westerly being impacted the most. North of Westerly is going to be impacted as much as anybody on Westerly. So I request that. The other thing to consider is that the town has tried, but maintaining that road has become difficult. The potholes reappear within weeks of them being filled. We've been repaved before. The road just breaks up. Our storm drains are starting to collapse. We don't have real curves. We have like rolled asphalt. The road just wasn't built for anything more than Rolling Hills 60 years ago when it was created. They certainly weren't thinking that let's add another Rolling Hills community at the end of Rolling Hills community. People at the end of that development will use all of the exits for Rolling Hills, but they'll use them strategically. If they want to be north and get to Pleasantville or on this side of Columbus, they're going to go all the way through the community. So we're going to see traffic coming both ways, people going from Rolling Hills through those houses to get to the other side. I'm in favor of a large road near the current office building. I think that's probably the best and probably only solution. But again, I think that all of that should be brought to light in a quality of life survey. Lastly, I just want to expand some of those intersections that are going to be looked at. If you go towards Westlake, Swanson, and Foxwoods, there's a tremendous amount of traffic that backs up in the morning. A lot of people driving their kids to schools. There's a middle school, there's a high school in one building. I think that they should look at that as well. Sometimes I'm just astounded at the traffic that is there at 7:30 in the morning. So that won't get any better. Lastly, we do have a runoff issue in the Rolling Hills area. I have, in the last 4 years, seen 2 instances where Rolling Hills had an active current of water rolling down Rolling Hills that was coming out of some of the higher areas. It was like a river, knocked me off my feet more than once. One of those blew out my retaining wall, which failed prematurely just because it just couldn't stand a current of water. It just blew out violently. So that's also to be considered. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for upholding our right to speak, and thank you.
You do raise an interesting point, though, which I didn't consider, which I think I'm going to add to the list of things we should consider is, because I was thinking just about the people coming from the development into Rolling Hills, but it's other people.
Yeah, they'll go through that development to get to the other side.
To Rose Hill,
both ways.
Be quicker. Yep, good point.
It's going to be a cut through.
So thank you.
Yeah, and just one mention for the developers. I live 1 mile into Rolling Hills. It's just mind numbing sometimes that I drive the same road every time, 10 times a day. Some of those houses are going to be well 2 miles from Columbus. I think those houses will probably sell anyway, but just again, quality of life, it's extremely undesirable to live almost 2 miles from your exit point.
Okay, well, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we are at speaker 14. We'll get to everybody.
Good evening. Tom McCormick, Rolling Hills Road. I'm here commenting, I think the applicant mentioned it, and I think the board mentioned it. There's a lot of people here in the community here tonight. I was outside, I came here about 5 minutes to 7:30 to get here. People drove through the parking lot, they couldn't get a parking spot, they left. There's people standing in the back, that my neighbors, they left and didn't decide to stay. Maybe going forward at these future meetings, we explore another venue to have this, whether it be the community center, the school district, but there's a lot of community involvement, and I think everyone should have a choice, have a chance to speak. With that being said, we mentioned, I'm just talking about the Thornwood side, Carroll Park, but I know there's a lot of members of the community here from the Hawthorne side too, so we don't want to forget them. But specifically Carroll Park, I think a lot of people refer to that as the gem park of the community. We have all our summer concerts there, baseball games, soccer practices. Right now, parking is inadequate at that park. So I think that should be studied with any proposed development with traffic coming down Rolling Hills Road. I have a question too for the applicant. Has it been explored? I know they mentioned accessing this proposed development through Summit Lakes, but accessing directly out to Columbus Avenue between 465 Columbus and Summit Lakes Drive. that property.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I know there's a wetlands area there, but just to see if that's been studied. And I think just like my neighbor said, Carl, everyone nowadays use Google Maps or Waze. Everyone's been down to the Four Corners about 5 p.m. in the evening, and traffic backs all the way up. You see cars banging left turns, shooting down Warren, Linda, Sherman. The same thing's going to happen with traffic coming through if we have access points coming through Gold Street and the Rolling Hills community. So I think the traffic study should include a lot more intersections, a lot more turning lanes, westbound, Kents to go at Rolling Hills. That left-hand turn lane would not be adequate if there was a development going through the Rolling Hills community. So just to expand it out a little bit more, the traffic. But there's a lot of great comments. I'm very happy that I came tonight, and I'm very happy that my neighbors are here. But I would strongly urge you maybe to consider a different venue so we can get more participation in the
Yeah,
community.
and I've also thought about, depending on how far down the road we go, making a special meeting just for this, because we do have applicants behind this tonight, as
Yeah.
well as before this.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out. We'll take
Yeah,
that back.
there was people out here in the parking lot throwing up their hands. They circled here, the gravel lot. Not enough parking. I parked in the grass
It's
along
not
Columbus.
for the board, it's for the meeting. I'm just
Yeah.
joking, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Number 14. Oh, Steve, do you mind giving the lady? Oh, come on up. I think she was 14. She was up at the same
Oh,
time.
well, she can be 16 now.
Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Really, lighten up. Be kind, right?
Kinder than necessary.
Kinder than necessary. Well, I am Stephen Cavey, the aforementioned Conservation Advisory Council Chair. From Mr. McCarthy's comments, let me say just a couple quick things. First of all, Mr. Chairman and board members, we did submit some written comments, an annotated copy of the scoping document, which I don't think you had a chance to see, but you'll see it this week.
Yep.
So that's been submitted, and we will consider additional comments in our meeting next week and offer some additional written comments. I'm here tonight to just offer some bullet points on the scoping document, not to go into a deep dive on some of the issues, some of the major issues that are going to be studied in the scope, but not that we're going to be addressing here tonight in just speaking about the table of contents of what this scope represents. But before I do that, I do think it's important for me to clarify something, and that is that in my conversation with Mr. McCarthy, it's inaccurate to say that I said that the town has no tree preservation plan. This applicant will actually be subject to the existing tree preservation plan, which will require a number of steps that they'll need to follow as part of the code. There are improvements that this town could have with the tree preservation plan. The Conservation Advisory Council has made some suggestions. The board has received them and has responded to some extent, and that's a conversation that's ongoing. But I just wanted to make that clear. That was addressed, and I wanted to state that for the public record so that it's been clarified. Thank you. But let me speak to this scoping document specifically, and that is that one of the key questions that we have with regard to the scope is how well this scope will address the Envision master plan and all the issues that were raised in Envision, and how this this application will explain how the Envision plan matches the applicant's plan, especially in regard to the fact that Envision speaks to about focusing development in the hamlet corridors as opposed to developing large plots and tracts of open space. So that's one thing that I think the scope really needs to list and the DES needs to address. We also want this scope to more fully deal with the natural resources on the site and speak about a habitat assessment and wildlife assessment. It's not that clear in the scoping document how that's going to be done. What a number of people have spoken about tonight are alternatives, and in fact, part of the seeker process requires that a scope address a series of reasonable alternatives, and a number of those have been presented tonight. And we would like to suggest that some of those alternatives might be to study how this application might need to be adjusted once all the impacts have been studied, and it may be recognized that those impacts cannot be mitigated, and in order to mitigate or deal with those impacts, lot counts may need to be reduced, and that may be one of the alternatives that could be included in this scope. There are a number of other alternatives that could be introduced as well. One in specific is the possibility of actually changing the nature of how the density is being done, and that would be to consolidate homes in a smaller portion of the property, taking into consideration the envisioned plan that calls for a reduction of lot counts based on steep slopes and wetlands, and that in fact would create more open space, and the more open space there is, the less chance of erosion, stormwater issues, and a number of other environmental impacts. So these are all different alternatives. The scope only lists two, and that's really insufficient. Certainly no build is one of them, and that would be an interesting plan that was already discussed. I did want to say that we do agree that the area of study of 1/4 mile seems to be insufficient. There are a number of applications we've seen in the past, and it's not uncommon for applicants to try and look for a reduced amount of space from the site to the impact areas, and a 1/4 mile is probably not going to be sufficient. A number of people have spoken to that as well, so we support that. Traffic issues are not usually within the context of a conservation advisory council, except for the fact that when you do have traffic backed up, what you do wind up with is increased exhaust emissions, and that is an environmental impact. So in addition to the traffic issues that people are going to be dealing with congestion and delays and such, we also have the impact of pollution from the consequence of backed up traffic. I did want to clarify on the scope what exactly the applicant is planning to do with regard to LEED certification, which is a type of way in which construction can be done with sustainability goals. It only states in the scope the possibility of LEEDs. It doesn't say at all how they intend to encourage LEEDs as part of the actual plan. There's nothing in the scope that describes the nature of the HVAC systems, what type of fuel is being used, whether there's any renewable energy possibilities, any geothermal, solar. Nothing's been mentioned in the scope. It's not clear whether this would be addressed. I want to say that in my experience, one of the things that I think people need to understand, I think they're understanding it now, and that is that this table of contents, this scope, is so critical in how this environmental review is conducted, because if in fact an item is not in the scope, ultimately it may be that it won't be addressed, and as the application moves further along and these issues are uncovered, if it's not in the scope, then I believe that SECR would say that, well, it doesn't need to be addressed because the scope is the outline, and anything that's not in the scope doesn't necessarily need to be covered. So this is really a critical time. This is probably the most important time. The starting point of a review like this is to have a very thorough scope that looks at all these particular issues and make sure that they're all there, so that in the course of the SECR process, as the DEIS is written, all these items must be addressed because they appear in that scope. I gather, Mr. Chairman, that you're going to extend the public comment period for written comments for a week or two. Can I ask, is that the...
It's a board decision, but that's not uncommon.
Okay, good. I just want to say that there are many issues that have been raised here tonight. Our goal here tonight for the Conservation Advisory Council is simply to look at the facts of this scope.
we'll be addressing all the details and a deeper dive on the individual impacts and the mitigation and measures that are necessary to deal with those issues that are going to be coming up. Right now, we're just looking at a very narrow view on this thing. But I do want to go back to one important thing, and that is Envision is the guiding document. The growth and development should be determined here in the town. And there are a number of issues in Envision that are not really, that don't match up with what this application is seeking to do. Thank you.
Thank you for the work you do for the town.
Number 16, please.
Here comes the real 14, I guess. At this point, everybody gets a chance. I'm going to get a butcher counter one of these days. Take a number.
Good evening. My name is Annie Griffin, and I'm a resident of the Rolling Hills neighborhood. I'm here tonight representing many residents who have serious concerns about the proposed Cedar Knolls redevelopment at 226, 228 Linda Avenue. We have submitted 172 signatures from the Rolling Hills community alone that are against the opening of Westerly Lane South. All the residents in the Rolling Hills community are against the opening of Westerly Lane South. Our primary concern is traffic and safety. On page 7 of the draft scoping document, item H, traffic, transportation, and parking, 14 study intersections are listed, but do not include Westerly Lane South and Westerly Lane. As this will become a primary access route for this development, this is a serious omission. The scoping document requires analysis of key intersections and surrounding roadways, yet a directly connected residential street was left out entirely. That's where we live. How can this be omitted when this proposal includes opening the roadway? This allows the project to connect to a dead-end residential street without ever analyzing the resulting traffic, safety, or neighborhood impacts. This gap must be remedied in the scoping document before any environmental review proceeds. Westerly Lane South and Westerly Lane must be added as a study corridor with specific pavement width and capacity analysis. Westerly Lane South and Rolling Hills Road are currently only 18 feet wide. Standard guidelines indicate that a two-way street accommodating emergency vehicles should be at least 20 to 24 feet wide. At their current width, these roads present significant hazard. Fire trucks, school buses, oil and propane delivery trucks, and other large vehicles will not have adequate space to safely navigate. There are no gas lines in the Rolling Hills community. All homes rely on oil or propane deliveries, which require large trucks to regularly access these already narrow roads. Introducing additional traffic will only worsen an already constrained situation. Standard roadway design guidelines call for 10 to 12 feet per travel lane, 20 to 24 feet total, and 11 to 12 feet per lane for roads accommodating buses and trucks. Rolling Hills does not meet these standards. Regarding the draft scoping documents, specifically pages 6 through 8, items H, traffic, transportation, and parking, and I, community demographics, facilities, and services, according to NFPA 1, Chapter 18, fire department access roads must meet critical safety standards. These include a minimum of 20 feet of unobstructed width, 13.5 feet of vertical clearance, and sufficient turning radius to allow emergency vehicles to operate effectively. These standards are essential to ensure proper emergency response, including the ability for vehicles to pass one another and to operate at fire hydrants or during aerial operations. Additionally, road grade, turning areas, and designated fire access markings must meet specific requirements as determined by the authority having jurisdiction. Westerly Lane South presents unique physical constraints. There's a steep drop-off on one side with no guardrails, making widening the road extremely difficult, if not impossible. Furthermore, if this road is open, increased traffic would necessitate sidewalks for pedestrian safety. ADA-compliant sidewalks require a minimum width of 5 feet, space that simply doesn't even exist on this roadway. I walk it every day. There's no sidewalk. In addition to narrow roadways, there are several areas with poor sight lines and sharp turns. As the gentleman, many people said, you come up the road, the kids are going down, fishing poles, and sometimes you don't see them. You have to drive slowly. And that's the beauty of the neighborhood. The kids go down, they fish. We just invested tons of money in Carroll Park so the kids could enjoy it safely. the curb between 72 and 76 Rolling Hills Road, the intersection of Rolling Hills Road and Hierkers Drive, and the intersection of Rolling Hills Road and Westerly Lane. These critical safety concerns are not adequately addressed in the draft scoping document. I'm almost done. I'm speaking for 172 people. Our residents demand a trip distribution and assignment analysis specifically for Westerly Lane South to be written into the scoping document, and for DEIS to be required to evaluate if Westerly Lane South meets Town of Mount Pleasant Road standards for the projected daily and peak hour volume it would receive in the build condition, and if this option should be restricted or eliminated entirely. We also request a community character analysis and a property value impact study to be added to the scoping document to analyze the effect of transition from a dead end to open cut through. Seasonal conditions further highlight these limitations. After snowfall, road widths are reduced even further due to snow accumulation. This past winter, streets narrowed to approximately 15 feet, allowing only one vehicle to pass at a time. This is not a temporary inconvenience. It is a recurring safety issue. The existing infrastructure in Rolling Hills was never designed to accommodate heavy or increased traffic. Adding significant volume will create choke points, increase the likelihood of accidents, and delay emergency response times. Beyond infrastructure concerns, the proposed development is expected to add approximately 87 new homes. If you estimate 2 to 3 vehicles per household, this could introduce 200 to 250 additional cars without accounting for cut-through traffic, delivery, or service vehicles. This level of increase is simply incompatible with the current road system, and we're also concerned about secondary impacts, including increased noise, reduced air quality, and construction-related challenges. These should be fully studied under item K, noise and air quality, and item M, construction impacts of the draft scoping document. We request construction traffic be explicitly prohibited from using Westerly Lane South, given the previously outlined roadway limitations. We respectfully ask the Planning Board to reconsider the proposal to open Westerly Lane South as an access point. Keeping this road closed will maintain the safety of residents and children, preserve the quiet, low-traffic nature of the neighborhood, reduce pollution and noise, and protect the overall quality of life and property values in the community. Opening this roadway would have a significant and lasting negative impact. The roads are substandard, sightlines are poor, and the risks to pedestrians, drivers, and children are real. We urge you to take these concerns seriously and act to protect the safety of the Rolling Hills community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
That was very well thought out. Thank you. Okay. I am going to point out, we're gonna hear everybody speak tonight. I think we're up to 17 people, right? That's the final number. We're number 14.
No, 17 is where we are.
Are we at 17?
Yeah.
Or was there anybody? Oh, Mr. Russell, what number were you? 16. Okay. Somehow we messed up the order, but it doesn't matter.
Jim Russell from Hawthorne. I do think it would be a good idea to continue this meeting, this hearing for another day, since there were so many people outside who wanted to speak and wanted to come in. So I think it's a very important topic, the scoping aspect of it. It can't really be pushed off, as it's been implied, that because, as Mr. Cavey stated, once these topics are in the document, you really have to stick to them as you proceed. And, my neighbors received a certified letter on my block. I believe I'm in the radius. I didn't. I also, I received several emails for the Blythedale.
Just the scoping document, if you don't mind. Just stick to the scoping
Well, it's
document.
important that, I want people to communication going forward for this, that, people know about it, and that you utilize
Yeah.
the email list that the town has, which hasn't been done, although
Okay,
I
but we're going to stick to
requested
the
it.
scoping document, not about email communications.
Okay, well, if that's not significant, I'll proceed that I think that the community character aspect has to be developed, and that's according to the SECRA handbook, and the agencies have to be brought in here. Now, I don't know if the school board and the fire departments are part of this tonight. I hope they will be. That's why I asked that this will be continued at another meeting so that we can have a full involvement of the community. I think also the comments can be posted online. Other towns have arranged to post comments that people send in online so that other residents can get an idea of what people are fully thinking and saying. So I would ask that you explore that, to have the comments that people send in posted online, so we know what everybody's thinking about, what everybody's talking about. And I would ask that if you don't continue this meeting, that you keep the comments ability open for 45 days, or at least 30 days. As far as investigations and reports, I think there should be a review of police activity at the Cedar Knolls Academy and Linden Hill area to see if there should be a decrease as far as the problems that we used to have in those areas. That would be significant for public safety and for community character. I think we should be open to replacing one institutional development with another institutional development. We shouldn't be held that we necessarily have to move towards what could become like a virtual gated elite community. So if you compare, let's say, if you have R40 1-acre plots within this development, on the Hawthorne side, most of the adjoining properties are approximately a quarter of an acre in those areas. So that's one other aspect of community character that should be studied fully. So I do hope that you try to communicate all future meetings thoroughly with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I see one hand in the back. We'll take one more speaker. So now you're number 18.
19.
19. It's a good thing she's here.
Good evening. My name is Marianne Chapman. I'm actually in Pleasantville on the other side. And something that I didn't hear being brought up was the Mount Pleasant Community Center and the area that it might be included in the scope as well. Because I think when it comes to access to the town pool, just the area in general with regards to the schooling, but also the over 55 community that's been added there. So I'd like to make sure that that's also included in the scope.
Good point. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so we heard a lot of good feedback. The applicant has sharpened his pencils earlier, and he's been writing furiously all night long. They've been taking notes. They know what they need to do. Any closing comments, or are you good to go? You're good to go. Okay, with that being said, we are done on this particular application, except we need to make one final conversation, actually. What do we do with the scoping session for a public hearing? Any comments or questions from board members?
I'd make a motion that we adjourn the public scoping session.
How about written comment period?
You don't have to make that
No,
decision
that
if
would
you're
be
adjourning it.
Yeah.
Or just adjourning it, okay. So just adjourning it, okay.
Do we want to adjourn it for another public comment session?
That's what you're,
Yeah,
if you
I-
adjourn it,
do
you
we
would be
wanna-
adjourning the public scoping session to another meeting.
Well, it's,
Have you heard all the public comments, or do you want to hear more?
I mean,
Or
we
we
could
could
do
just
written
leave it
com-
open for written?
we could do written comment 30 days.
What do you think?
I think 30 days.
I withdraw.
At least 30 to 45 days. 45.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I amend my motion to close the public hearing and to begin a 30-day comment period on the scoping outline.
30-day written comment.
Written comment period, sorry.
Okay. So
I
we
would
have,
second that.
we have a motion on the table. We have a second on the table. So Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
JD.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And aye for me. And I do want to thank everybody who's come out tonight. I've said it repeatedly, we don't function without the community. I'm part of the community. We are all part of the community. Thank you for coming out tonight. I learned a lot. It's been very, very knowledge building night for me as well. So thank you. We do have other applications, believe it or not. So if you're not here for those applications, I ask you to leave quietly if you can, as much as possible. And we'll keep the works of the planning board moving forward. Okay, so next up on the agenda is flipping and turning here. It's not a public hearing. Continuing application 2 Broadway, Hawthorne, conversion of single-story commercial structure to a 3-story mixed-use storage or residential structure. Application site plan PSP 25-12. Location 2 Broadway, Hawthorne, section block lot numbers 112.9-3-10, zone AG7, owner 2 Broadway Realty LLC, applicant architect Jonathan Valani. So we'll let the room empty out first.
We're friends, I can say that. Good night, Sam.
Don't always listen to the residents or anybody else. I'm just giving you a bit of advice. Because every issue that came to my desk about a resident saying something.
Do we have the folks from 2 Broadway here?
It all came out.
2 Broadway.
I'm just making a point.
It's your bedtime.
We do our job and we do our job well.
Okay. He's what? Okay, so 2 Broadway is not here. We're gonna not hear it tonight. Which brings us to 423 and 429 Commerce Street, demo existing building, construct new multi-use building with 12 proposed dwelling units, 1 office space, 2 commercial retail spaces, and a rear parking lot with 18 parking spots. Application site plan number PSP 25-9, location 423 and 429 Commerce Street, Hawthorne, section block lot numbers 112.5-1-27 and 28, zone Thornwood Hamlet, owner 423 Commerce Street LLC, 429 Commerce Street LLC, applicant and architect Demosky Architecture, and you are a trooper for hanging on as long as you did. Thank
Wouldn't
you.
have it any other way.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Steve Demofsky, Demofsky Architecture. So if you can remember from the last meeting, we were referred to zoning for 1 variance that we needed for the height of the elevator bulkhead. The variance was granted, so it's all approved at zoning. So in the meantime and concurrently, we were just addressing some comments that Pat and David Smith had. We've addressed all of them. I believe they've been addressed satisfactorily. There's a few just minor things that we got to touch up in the permitting process. And I think David responded that way, and I spoke with Pat earlier today, and I think he's agreeing on that also. So at this point, unless the board wants us to review anything on the design or anything else that we've already presented,
Well, yeah, so the question, I guess the question before the board is this ready for public hearing? Yes or no? We don't agree or disagree with the applicant at this point, but is it ready or not for public consumption?
So, Mr. Chairman, there was one issue that we asked Steve to address, which is the form-based code requires every application to document that it complies with the generic environmental impact statement that was done for the adoption of the form-based code. The initial submission by Steve sort of addressed the policies of it, but it didn't address the specific threshold issues that were in there. So I've asked Steve to update that. So in other words, does it exceed the thresholds with respect to sewer, water, traffic that were established in there? So I've asked Steve to specifically address that. I don't think that prevents you from going to public hearing, but it does prevent you from taking action on this until those comments are in the record.
Right. So that's the gatekeeper. So, what are the thoughts from the board at this point?
And just to repeat, all the technical issues were addressed quite well. There was one issue that the applicant pushed back against, which was the provision of bike storage and parking in the building. They've said they're not going to do that. Again, the intention of these developments in the hamlets was to create more connectivity, and people have e-bikes, and it's not something that they leave next to the dumpster in the backyard anymore. So our code requires you to think about that. So we encourage the applicant to think about that.
Yep, so,
So, we did include a spot for bike racks on the building, under the building, so that has been added to the plan.
So the bike racks are fine, e-bike charging is the issue. So they've indicated no e-vehicles and no e-bike charging, but many folks have e-bikes these days, so.
so we can do a couple things. I'll just list them. We can do nothing. Make it come back no time, which I personally don't see the point of doing that. We can ask us as a board, do we want to schedule a public hearing subject to Pat and staff being happy as much as possible? Those are our two options in front of us, I think, tonight, unless there's other options I can think of at this point. So, what are...
Make a motion to schedule a public hearing. I second it.
Well, I think you just want to make sure you're subject to, right?
Yes. Yes, subject to Steve answering Pat's questions.
Okay, so we have a motion from JD and a second from Steve. So we just say Walter?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Eileen?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And I for me. It's worth the wait for you, I guess.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, next up on the application is new applications proposed 168 Sawmill River Road, construction of a new retaining wall along property line, removal of retaining wall in neighboring property. Application steep slopes PLSS 26-1, location 168 Sawmill River Road, Hawthorne. Section block, lot number is 111.20-1-10, zone CRB, owner 168 Sawmill River Road. Applicant engineer Andy Chung, Engineering PLC. I should be auction taker. How fast I read that
I think you
through.
would do a good job as an auction taker.
Thank you.
Going once, going twice. Chair, members of the board, good evening. My name is Andy Chung, AC Engineering. I am the engineer on record representing the owner, 168 Old Sawmill River Road. 168 Old Sawmill River Road is a commercial building. It's owned by Candela Systems. They have a warehouse. They're a lighting store kind of across the street from where the Amazon warehouse is. Right next door, there's a gym on the top right, and on the bottom is a printing shop. So they purchased the property back in 2011, 2012, and in the rear of the property, everything slopes down towards the back of the building, and up on top of the hill is a residence. So when they purchased the property, in the process of trying to gain more area in the back, they decided to build a retaining wall. Unfortunately, didn't go through the process of building the retaining wall. Fast forward to last year, I was retained to kind of make everything compliant, make everything correct. So we had a survey done, and as we were looking at the survey, we realized that the wall that was built was not on their property, it was on the neighboring property. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the wall that was built on the neighboring property, and we're going to replace it with a properly designed retaining wall on our actual 168 Sawmill River Road property. So in the process of doing that, there were, in working with the engineering department of the town, we got the old topo from back then, and then we came up with, the different slope categories, 0 to 15, 15 to 25, et cetera. So that area before the wall was built did have steep slopes in it, and this is the process of us trying to legalize everything. The existing wall is a basically cement block wall, and as we were inspecting the wall, we determined, even despite the fact that it's not in the right location, our engineering analysis determined that the wall really shouldn't be built of that materials, which is another reason why we want that wall removed and a proper engineered wall replaced.
So can I just ask the question? Maybe we can compress this a little bit.
Yep.
Pat, how ready? Because the question we have tonight is not the specifics of the application so much. It's really more, is this ready for public consumption?
So we don't have Dave's comments on this yet. I know they've been working with Dave, but he hasn't given you his comments with respect to this yet.
Yeah.
So we normally have Dave's comments before you schedule a public hearing.
Yeah. Okay, any questions?
So the wall was built without a permit?
I believe so. I don't know.
Most definitely.
Most likely if it was purchased
So with
15
that-
years ago.
It was built without a permit on the neighbor's property.
With that being said, we need to wait for Dave's comments.
And can you also tell me whether removal of that wall will result in the removal of the trees shown along it?
No, the good thing is a lot of the slope that's on top of the wall now, a lot of the trees are established, and in the last 7 or 8 to 10-foot section of wall behind the wall, it's just grass. So all of the trees that are there are going to remain. In fact, moving the wall closer towards the left is going to add additional
So
soil.
part of the issue with respect to, there's work that needs to be done on that adjacent property, there needs to be permissions established for that. So all of that needs to be in place prior to moving to public hearing.
Yes, and the owner of the property did get in touch with the owner of the residence, and he was fine with the removal of the wall and
Okay, so I think just to, because we have 2 more applications before, after you
Yes,
tonight.
I
So
wanna
wanna
move
be
quickly.
respectful of the people here
Yep.
tonight for that. Kudos to people for hanging out this long. I personally feel as one board member that he didn't have a permit, he had a wall collapse, whatever his problem was, but he needs to get engineer comments to us in order for us to proceed.
And the appropriate permissions from the adjacent neighbor. So maybe we're not ready for a public hearing?
No. No.
Okay.
You will be eventually, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
there has to be cause and consequence. We can't roll out easy path street for somebody who egregiously violated the wall.
Even if it was the previous owner of this property.
Understood.
Okay, well, thank you
Great.
very much for coming out and hanging on through that long
Thank
portion
you.
of the meeting.
Thank you. Good luck on the rest of the night.
Thank you. Okay, next up, 1 Waverly Place tear down of an existing single-family residence and the construction of a new single-family residence along with associated site improvements and installation of a stormwater management practices, steep slopes SS 26-2, 1 Waverly Place, Valhalla, New York, section block law numbers 117.15-1-69, zone R10, the owner Erica Martini, applicant engineer KSCJ Consulting. Thank you for coming out today and hanging out and waiting for such a long time. Thank you.
No problem
State
at
all
all.
that for the record, your name, all that for the record.
Good evening. Rick Bolander, KCJ Consulting, the project engineer. The lot is about 0.4 acres, located in the R10 zoning district, surrounded to the north, south, and east by single-family homes, and then Taconic Parkway to the west. The applicant is proposing to demo the existing house, existing driveway, and existing appurtenances. The only features that are to remain, take this off, are the walls and the stairs located in this area, and the walls and the stairs located in the right-of-way. No trees would be removed. These 2 trees that look to be removed are just to be transplanted. Here's the footprint of the existing house. Nothing really too crazy. I think we're here tonight, obviously, because there are disturbances to the steep slopes in this area. The reason for the disturbance to the steep slopes is for this pathway and this walkway, just to maintain access to the back of the house. The existing curb cut is to remain. The increase in impervious area, obviously, the house is getting significantly bigger. The increase in stormwater runoff and the increase in impervious will be mitigated by a Coltech system, Coltech 300s, about 14 of them, to mitigate the peak flows and peak volumes. The existing utility connections, gas, water, and sewer, will be maintained for the new residents. And that's essentially it. Again, this area right here is where the disturbance to the steep slopes would be for that walkway behind the house to maintain
I'm
access.
just curious, it's immaterial, but why are we knocking down the house?
I don't know. I don't want to speak for the
Okay.
applicant. I'm not.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can
it's
you flip back?
immaterial. Okay, Okay.
So
Any
there's no room
questions?
on the other side of the property that you can shift the house since you're knocking it down to limit the disturbance in the steep slope?
We looked at that, and we didn't think we could move the house far enough to eliminate that steep slopes and still maintain that access around the house.
The access is just a walkway though, right?
Yeah, correct.
So wouldn't it be easier just to move that walkway and disturb the steep slope
We could definitely look at that, for sure.
if it's just a walkway?
Yeah. No, we'd be happy to look at that.
Can you go to the next page again? Sorry, I just wanted to compare. And what's the height of the retaining wall that you're putting in the area of steep slope?
At its highest in this corner right here, you're talking about 12 feet, and it quickly goes down to about 2 feet right there. Moving this direction, that's about 6 feet right there.
Okay, you're gonna run into problems with zoning or building height at 12 feet that exceeds what's required. So
Yep.
that's gonna have to be adjusted anyway.
That's a big house.
So,
That's why I
just
had it
to
flipped.
summarize the issue with respect to, the area of steep slopes on the property is fairly limited. And what it appears, though, is that they didn't try very hard to avoid the steep slopes. That's what the applicant wants to build, regardless of the steep slopes. So to JD's point, it appears that a modification could probably avoid the steep slope permit. And if you look at the plan, for example, they're relocating a shed, and they put the shed in the area of steep slopes. They could have easily put the shed anywhere on the site. It just so happened that's where the applicant probably wants to put his shed, and it happens to be in that area of very limited steep slopes. A little bit of effort probably could avoid this entirely.
Because I think if you look at town code, comprehensive plan, understand why it's beneficial to the community at large to do as little impact to steep slopes as possible, especially in the environment that we're living in now with flooding and all that good stuff. So I think to JD's point, that's something that should be considered.
Absolutely, be happy to look at that.
And if you can make that work, does that mean he doesn't need anything from
Yeah,
us?
yeah.
Silver lining.
Yes.
How many square feet is the house you're building?
I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't want to misspeak, but I can absolutely provide that number.
It's a big house.
It's a big house.
It's a big lot, too.
It's a big-
It's a big lot.
Uniquely, yeah,
Yeah,
for that area.
for that area. Okay, anything else? So what do you want to do with this application? Because at this point, I think we need to make sure that we think about that steep slope before we talk to the public.
Sure.
I think they should take a second look at this and, you know, it could be a win-win. We might not have to see it.
Yeah, exactly, yes. I'd be happy to look at that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Wrap it up with the final one. The people for the final one to get a prize for waiting as long as you did. 420 Nanahagan Road, amend previous subdivision approval for subdivision application PST 24-1, one lot into two lots for the purpose of developing a new single-family dwelling. Amendment includes change to water service as prescribed by the Westchester County Board of Health. Application subdivision number PSD 24-1, location 420 Nanahagan Road, section block number 107.17-2-16, R40. Owner and applicant is Nanahagan 420 LLC, architect Spearman Architectural Design PC, and attorney Philip Grimaldi. Welcome, Mr. Grimaldi.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name's Philip Grimaldi. I'm here with Robert Buffamente. He's one of the partners of the owner. I submitted a letter. I don't know if the board saw it, and it just contained the background of why we're here again.
I understand why we're here, yep.
So, again, I don't have anything much to add. Everybody knows what happened here and why it happened from a legal perspective. And Mr. Buffamente is just going to talk about the water line, which is the only difference between this and the prior approval.
And that's a substantive issue.
Well, it's a substantive issue, but it really doesn't affect the subdivision in any way. But again, he's here to talk about the water line, and really we believe any comments from the public or the neighbors should be limited to the water line and nothing else, because we went through all this a year ago, and it was resolved. You approved the subdivision, and there was no Article 78. So now the only difference is the water main, and,
I can only tell you, if we open up a public hearing, I'm not going to limit the conversation to specific topics.
okay, but again, my understanding of the law is that once you have an opportunity to object to something and you don't object to it, you're prohibited from doing that, so.
All right, and what objections do you think are coming?
Well, you're going to hear them tonight. I'm sure you will. So again, I'll let Mr. Buffamenti speak about the water main and.
Okay.
Robert Buffamante, I think what Phil's saying is, we heard all these objections about use of the road. There's no reason to be, there's no secret about what the objections were previously, and to open, oh, that was the concern. But I'll keep it brief with the water main. So this is Nanahagan Road. And real quick, we went to Department of Health, right? This was proposed as a drinking well. Westchester County Department of Health does not allow a drinking well if you're in a water district. Even though the water line we were to connect to was undersized, they don't care, basically. You have to upgrade it. If you're in a water district, you have to connect to it. So that's why we're here. So this is Nanahagan Road. This would be the increased size water main from the existing house, 420 Nanahagan. We basically have to take that water connection off the existing line and put it on the new line in order to create capacity for new Lot 1 connection. So this is still the existing line. New Lot 1 actually ties into the existing line, but this upgraded 6-inch water main to Nanahagan Road takes this house off the undersized main.
And you're going down to the middle of the road, or how are you doing that?
On Davidson? Or
Yeah.
So it's basically the middle of the road, more or less, because there's water, gas, and sewer in the road already. So the idea is to dig a separate trench,
So when you're
lay
trenching
everything
that
dry.
road, how does traffic get by?
We would have to make provisions for that, for sure.
Okay.
You know, it's a dead-end street. There's a lot of dead-end streets in town. I grew up on a dead-end street that the town has made a lot of improvements to throughout the years. You know, there is a street across Nanahagan that we probably have to park neighbors' cars on. There's room to stage cars at the beginning part of the street when we're not doing this work. So while this work's happening, we could stage cars at the beginning of the street for them to get in and out. And obviously, when this tie-in work's happening at the end of the street, the cars would have to be relocated to an adjacent street. So wait,
So you're suggesting that they won't be able to park in their driveways during construction?
During construction, it would be construction hours. So say construction starts at 9 o'clock, right? So if they're not out by 9 o'clock, right, we'd have to make provisions to move the cars ahead of the construction before construction started for that day. It would be road plated, of course, at the end of every day.
How long is the run?
340 feet.
How many days do you think it's going to take them to do it?
Yeah, dig the trench, you got dry lay everything, right? And then you have the whole testing procedure and the connection in Nanahagan. So it's
That's
2 weeks of work.
That's a big deal. And I think if we were to schedule a public hearing at some point in the future, you would need to fully vet out that plan of how you're going to mitigate that problem. Because I personally would not be happy if I had to park down the road and hike into my house with 10 packages from ShopRite. So
We reversed, not to cut you off, Jim, but if they can't get out of their house then at a certain time, so you need a logistics.
ambulance, fire.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think ambulance and fire, it's a 2-foot wide trench, right? So I think ambulance and fire could make it over the trench. I mean, I could check the widths of the tires on emergency vehicles. I'm positive they're wider than that. We could also offer only opening up, say, 15, 20 feet of trench at a time. If 2 road plates had to be pushed back on, that could happen in 30 seconds. So things like not opening up too much trench, having the road plates ready, emergency vehicles being wider, and obviously a logistics plan. You know, during working hours, yes, the 2 residents that it affects in the back, it would have to be coordinated with for sure.
Yeah.
During working hours.
Yeah, me, I could not say yes to schedule a public hearing, knowing that we don't have a plan in place for that problem? We would have to present to the public some solution for them. And I don't know how happy the public is going to be who are in that community if they have to figure out and navigate between this hour and that hour and the parking, and God forbid an ambulance run needs to happen.
So, yeah, the emergency is the only option.
Only route that you could take.
We met with David Smith, really anything we could think of. Believe me, the last thing I wanted to do was do 330 feet of 6-inch water main.
Is that a main or a service line coming in the red? That's an extension of the existing main?
It's a main, right? It's an undersized, it's a 2-inch main right now. It services that, and there's no fire hydrant. So the 2-inch main is being upgraded to 6-inch with a fire hydrant.
Yeah, can the neighbors tie into that?
They're all tied in already. It's just undersized to tie in an additional house.
Right, but do they get any benefit in water pressure or flow, being able to tap into?
They do get the benefit, of a fire hydrant, on the street that they don't have right now. I wish I could say, I would have to see. My understanding is the water pressure is okay right now. It is a standard water main, where the 2-inch is substandard right now, which is, I believe, a technical term for it. So it is a substandard main going to a standard main with a fire hydrant. Like I said, all the town utilities do run on that street currently. They run right down the middle of the street. They were installed in recent years. Mr. Chairman, I fully understand your concerns, and a plan 100% will need to be provided, but I just do want to say, unfortunately, upgrades do happen on dead-end streets in the town, and those.
I would have to understand that plan before we schedule a public hearing. I in good conscience got to say, let's schedule a public hearing at this point, knowing that we may or may not have a plan that I haven't had a chance to look at, or the board has not had a chance to look at, to understand how we're going to navigate this situation, because you're asking people for 2 weeks possibly to have limited access to their home. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yep, not saying it's not a big deal. I agree, and we'll get you a plan, but I just, also want to say like I said, I lived on Dorothy Court in Hawthorne my whole life, and I've lived it, right? Usually the plan is alternate parking if you need access during working hours. Obviously, you provide some sort of crossing guard to get to that alternate parking.
That's a town road, Dorothy Court, right? And this is a road that's maintained by whom?
It's maintained by ourselves, by the homeowner, so half of it
so
by
there's all these
us.
questions that come up. We're trenching, we're digging, we're breaking the asphalt. Like, all these questions need to be addressed. So I need a full understanding of what we're going to do, where the car is going to go, how are we going to repair the road after it's fixed. All these questions need to be addressed. And I think some of the board members are suggesting the same thing. So with that being said, we need to button up a couple things before we talk further. Anything else?
No, I don't believe so. So the plan should include basically what the construction entails and what the ingress and egress for neighbors and emergency vehicles would
And
be.
how are you going to fix the road after you trench it?
The trench will be full depth asphalt as per town codes, because that road is built to town codes with town utilities on it. And then the remainder of it, we could look at. One option could be to mill and pave the remainder of it, or just full depth repair of the trench.
Okay.
I think the town has to weigh in on it, because the guidelines for asphalt, what they were back then to what they are now are different as well.
I thought the town instituted that you have to go side to side now if you do any kind of repair. You can't just,
Put a trench.
yeah,
It's full width.
full
repair.
width, yeah, side to side.
Okay, so it is,
That's the middle period.
it is 10:37. I know there's an attorney in-house. I can give you a few minutes, which is not a public hearing, but I can give you a few minutes, but let's bring this close together, because you're holding me up between here and being home.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be quick. I will refer the board to my letter of April 17th, which hopefully you all received. Just quickly in that, by the way, Michael Sheridan from Snyder & Snyder, the attorneys for the Pagellos at 6 Davidson Drive. we believe this issue is premature to be before the planning board because there's currently litigation in this matter as to whether the subdivision approval is actually still exists, because they've never come back to extend the subdivision application. After 180 days, when it would expire, they get 90 days extensions. You had one tonight on your agenda. They've never been back. It's been well over 400 days at this point. So the subdivision approval has expired and is void, and they need to start over again completely. We're in court to make that determination, and I think this board should hold off making any determination until such time as the court has had an opportunity to render its decision, which would avoid any inconsistent adjudication between this board and the court. To the extent that you do schedule a public hearing in the near future, we would like to point out some quick comments that we've had previously. One is that there's no easement for them to put a water main through Davidson Drive. The easement, if there is an easement to allow, it's for access, which we're not even positive that they even have the right to do that. But there's certainly nothing from a water main perspective. The town previously agreed with the owner of that property to have the sewer easement, which means there is a need, in addition to access, which is potentially allowed, to have different easements for the utilities going through Davidson Drive. The town realized this. They got a sewer easement many years ago. Now there needs to be a water easement. Nobody has approached the owners of Davidson Drive to get that easement done.
Okay, and that's all going to work itself out to the litigation that you're doing, I'm assuming, right?
That is not part of the litigation. The town previously got the easement. We feel that the town should work with the property owners on a new easement. There's also, now that they're doing a water main down Davidson Drive, there's a freshwater wetland that crosses Davidson Drive right before Nannyhagen Road that now they'll be excavating and digging in to put this water main, assuming underneath. There's a culvert there currently crossing Davidson Drive. So that's something that also this board would need to review, and we believe should get DEC involved because it's a DEC regulated wetland. So these are all additional issues that pop up with this. And finally, again, to make this quick, we would ask for an updated survey. It's now been, on the survey that they provided, you can see it, it's now been over 20 years since the last survey was done for this property. I think that 2 decades is long enough to get somebody to go back out there to confirm that nothing has changed in the conditions. They've done mapping and said updated map, but I think they really need to do a proper survey of this property to check if there's any wetlands, which there appear to be more wetlands across the front of the property than were previously noted in the prior survey as conditions have changed. So those are the highlights of my letter, which I submitted. And that's all I have to say this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, that's a wrap then. There's really nothing else for us to discuss at this point. And thank you for hanging on. I know there's a long night for you guys too, so thank you for hanging on. You get the prize for staying the longest. So, okay, that's it. Do we have a motion to close the meeting at 10:41?
So moved.
So motion from Arlene. Second from JD. Walter, Jane.
Aye.
Arlene.
Aye.
JD. Steve, and an aye from me.